everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the MinnMax Show podcast, place about games, friends, and getting better, and Jeff Marchiafava and Kyle Hilliard and Janet Garcia as well. Welcome, everybody!
Why the
see, now you don't have to do intros.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, I think
built in.
I mean, people probably know Janet's voice. It goes a little something like this.
Hello.
People probably know Kyle's voice. It goes a little something like this.
Hello.
That's right. And Jeff Marchiafava is the other mysterious voice who will not speak on this podcast.
Let's trick everyone for the audio podcast.
That sounds fun.
So they won't know who's talking.
I'm excited for this here show. This is what I call a light, funky one. I think it's going to be really good, but it's a little funky for a couple reasons. First of all, we're going to be talking about Final Fantasy XVI. Nothing funky about it. This is as good as gaming can get. What's funky is we were not invited to this preview event, which breaks my damn heart. But it's fine. It's fine. We're big boys and girls. We can take it. But so we'll be talking about just kind of the avalanche blast of everybody else's coverage about Final Fantasy 16 because I think it's really interesting to unpack. Then we're going to be doing something that people have been screaming for us to do for a very long time. I'd say 3,000 years. Whenever we do like a poll or post on Reddit or in the Discord and just say like, hey, what do you want us to do more of at MinnMax? By far, I feel like the number one response is like, do deepest dives, but just like shorter and smaller, but do like that type of format for like other things. And it's like, well, that's kind of what the podcast is. But so the point is we're going to try it to some extent, this episode of the podcast, because Kyle just finished The Legend of Zelda, the Minish Cap, the 2004 Game Boy Advance game. So we're going to...
Is it the Minish Cap?
It is, I think.
Yes, there's two thes, which I think is ridiculous.
I agree.
The Wind Waker, right?
Yeah.
And the Minish Cap. Okay.
Call it Minish Cap. It's cleaner. So we're going to be unpacking that now that it's on Switch Online. I feel like a lot of people are playing it now. And so we've played it and Kyle finished the damn thing. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some news from Big Pokemon Day. Jeff, I'm trying to stay awake during this conversation, buddy.
He wants to go to sleep for that. That's you... Right?
Oh, that's the goal. Yeah. So, Jeff, if you could promise me to fall asleep during that Pokémon Presents conversation, I'd really appreciate it. And then Jeff is insistent that we talk about Horizon Forbidden West, so we're going to be doing that again. And then we're going to be talking about a game called Scars Above, which I am excited to talk about this thing. It's a third-person sci-fi thingy. And then back half of the show, of course, we have great community questions. Thank you all for being here, for watching, listening. Do we thank people not enough or too much, do you think, at MinnMax, Janet?
What do I think people? What?
Yeah, I'm just asking, do you think people too much or no, do we thank people? I feel like every podcast, every outlet, it's always like, thank you, thank you, thank you. It's if you say it too much, it becomes rote. And I don't know the right level of thanking people for letting a place like MinnMax exist, you know?
I think we're doing okay.
Every other episode.
Every other episode? Okay. I think we're doing okay too. Okay, Final Fantasy 16. Let's unpack what we learned from other outlets that got to go see it. I watched a bunch of IGN coverage, Game Informer coverage, Easy Allies got to go, which is very cool. Kyle, since you were kind of in the loop on this whole thing, this seemed like a event where they're jumping you ahead to like 5 hours into the game, but they kind of mixed and matched like the abilities that you'd have there. And it seemed like more than anything else, you're primarily focusing on combat. It's like, as far as I can tell, the demo was like run through a little bit of a castle that's kind of boring looking. No offense to medieval architects. And then you get into some normal fights and then some big boss fights against some summons or icons, I guess they want to be called. And then that's kind of the extent. And by and large, it seemed like the takeaway that I heard was people being like, this combat's legit. You know, like it turns out hiring a combat designer from Devil May Cry 5 to bring on is pretty damn good.
And also Marvel versus Capcom 2.
Right.
I didn't realize as well. Yeah.
And it's always...
Yeah, but the event was definitely like, hey, check out the combat. Like almost exclusively. You know?
Right. And what'd you think of everything you saw and heard?
So Wesley LeBlanc went and saw it for Game Informer, and I kind of sat in on some of his video coverage. So it's all like secondary, right? I read a bunch of his stuff. But it looks great, man. It looks like a full-on action game, honestly. Like... If you watch like a few minutes of gameplay, I don't even know that you would be like, oh, this is clearly Final Fantasy. And I say that in a positive way. Like they're trying something new with this one, and they're leaning into like they brought on the Devil May Cry combat designer, and that seems very apparent in a cool way. Right.
Yeah. So Yoshi P, who's the producer for this thing, also is a producer and kind of showrunner, if you will, for Final Fantasy XIV, so he has a lot of community love, but he did 3,000 interviews, and it's interesting to hear where he's at. One of them was, a lot of people might be belly aching about like, it's not my turn-based Final Fantasy. I don't really want Devil May Cry combat, which I kind of hear. I'm kind of in that camp as well, but I'm always open to people trying new things. But he had an interesting quote in a Gematsu interview where Yoshi P said, back in the day, director Katase-san, who's the director of 7 and 8 and a lot of old games, Katase-san told me that Final Fantasy is what the creators at that time think Final Fantasy should be, and that's what you should do when creating a new game. So I love just the looseness. Like it's more fun to have an overall series that's experimental and bizarre. And it seems like
keep it chocobo. The cover art is the font for the cover art is pretty much squared away for you, but everything else,
Well, I mean, that was surprising too. There was a interview where he was talking about, and I'm trying to remember where it was exactly. Maybe Gematsu again, where he was talking about they were halfway through development, and then like an associate producer or somebody on the team raised their hand, and they're like, there's not a Moogle in this game. And they're like, oh crap. Like they got that far before just including some of the Final Fantasy basics because they're trying to go so hard in their direction. And that's kind of, we talked about it before, but that is my biggest concern with this is, Gematsu, God bless them, they asked him about just like, are there lighthearted things in this Final Fantasy? Because it seems very Game of Thrones, feels very throwbacky. And his answer was a little concerning where he says, when you have this hero, Clive, who's talking about and driven by revenge, you can't suddenly be like, I'm going to go out and fish. So in that sense, there aren't those types of light things that are going to detract from the story that we're trying to tell. Which is...
so no fishing.
No fishing, and just the idea of like, the light stuff, it's distracting. I don't think so. But there's going to be side stuff, and they say, hey, you can go out on hunts, like in Final Fantasy XII. And Kyle, do you understand there's like a battle arena where you like post your high score online and stuff?
Weird. Okay.
Yeah. So right, that's like the other side
I'm
stuff?
sure that will be very background, but it is an odd thing.
I'm sure some people are going to be all in on it. But Janet, how are you feeling about 16 based on everything you've seen here?
I mean, I'll give it a go. I think because I'm still so new to Final Fantasy in general, it's funny, like even the discussion of what is a Final Fantasy game, because that's something I've asked a lot of people and everyone has kind of like a different answer. They're like, oh, well, it's people and they're having this adventure and the world kind of has like these connective threads, but like this one's different than this one and start here, but then don't go here. And like, it's kind of a hodgepodge of things, which is kind of nice about, I think, a long running franchise. So often when there's something, with less installments, there's that, do I go back? Do I got to catch up? Here, it's like, you're not going to catch up. You just jump in somewhere and just wait around and see what's there. So I would definitely be down to check this one out when it comes out.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like there was an interview as well where he's like, I don't even want to call this game a JRPG. And
that's today's discourse, yes.
Exactly, yeah. As he was saying, like, he said, JRPG, I feel like that term's kind of derogatory. It was used in like the early 2000s to like look down on Japanese RPGs. Where it's like, that's interesting. And that they would perceive it that way within Square. Where in my mind, it's like, if you say something's a JRPG, I'm much more interested than if it's just an RPG or a Western RPG in particular.
Yeah,
but
it was always just a genre identifier to me. But like reading his quotes, I totally see where he's coming from. Like it makes sense that like they would see it as in a negative way, even though to me it was just like a subgenre of RPG.
Yeah, but I think it's just cool to like reframe your mind to think of like, okay, the creators of Final Fantasy 16, they don't want to see it as a JRPG. They are not viewing it that way. This is just an action game with some Final Fantasy staples thrown in there. And it's interesting in so many of the interviews.
And a Moogle, apparently, like at the last
one
second.
Moogle. It's probably going to be put in a guillotine within 3 minutes. They're going to chop off his little pointy antenna. But
so cute.
It's interesting to hear in all the interviews, he was referencing God of War a lot. Especially like
modern God of War?
Yeah, a little part. unclear. Like he said that, they were really impressed by the original God of War, but then he was talking about like how this game, it's not open world. There's going to be kind of like you have your center space, which is called the Hideaway. So like Sid apparently is the leader of this Hideaway group, and early on Clive gets inducted into this group. And so you're going out on missions from this Hideaway location. So that made me think of like, okay, is it kind of like the shack or not the shack, but the secret treehouse, whatever the hell you want to call it in God of War Ragnarok, just for an overall structure.
Well, they were certainly working on this before they played Ragnarok.
That's true.
But I
for
could
now,
see what you mean.
For his point of reference that maybe he's trying to make now, maybe he can jump to that if he's just playing it now or whatever. But then especially he was referencing it a lot when it comes to the boss fights, because, you've seen glimpses before, like, okay, you're going to be going through and fighting all the summons, and there's going to be these huge set piece style boss fights where you are controlling, like Ifrit, for example, seems to be the main one. And then you're just going up and having these giant kaiju style fights, but everyone has a different style of gameplay associated with it. Is that your read too, Kyle?
Yeah, no, it sounds like there's one that maybe even is going to feel like an on-rail shooter was like the only tease. And I was joking with Wes. I was like, yeah, one's going to be a kart racer. And Wes's response was like, honestly, the way they were talking about it, like it wouldn't surprise me just because they were really leaning into like how diverse they want to make each of those fights. And they're like these big, huge, expensive set pieces. And they almost seemed like annoyed that they're like, yeah, we're just like, we really, spent a lot of time and money on these things. And they're just one-offs and we have a bunch of them throughout the game. It's like, that sounds cool, man. That sounds cool.
They really want to blow you away and have these big set piece moments. It's like, okay, that seems all right. And then it's cool because you can also like incorporate these summons into the combat too, where you can kind of switch into like, hey, now I'm in Ifrit mode. Now I'm in Shiva mode, and that affects your attacks. And they compared that to like the job system in 5, which is kind of cool. They even had like the director of 5 doing interviews at this press event and stuff. So you can just like swap through these different styles, even though you're only controlling Clive. And then Jeffem, you can also control his dog named Torgal. So if that doesn't mean for
I'm back in.
Okay, good.
I was out with the no fishing, but now we got a dog. So.
Yeah.
I guess controlling him is a little bit of a misnomer. It sounds like he's like with you and you can kind of say like, hey, focus on healing me or focus on attacking, but you're not really, like he's just around.
Well, so he's cool. Apparently the left button on the D-pad is to go to like the Torgal commands, and then he has like 2 attacks and a heal option, and not the heal you're thinking of, Jeffem. Anyways,
cut that out.
Yeah, we will be trimming out every joke that doesn't work.
We edit all these in post. Ben puts laughter under all them.
Oh, big time. But I'm just fascinated as a Final Fantasy fan to see like the direction they're taking here. And so many of the interviews they talk about, like, we wanted to go back to the roots, get back to like fantasy style storytelling, basics of Final Fantasy. I know it kind of went sci-fi, kind of with 6 and beyond, and we want to go back to the basics. But it's funny because like, well, 9 also had that exact same messaging. Like, hey, back to crystals, back to summons, back to basics, back to fantasy. Except 9 is like maybe the most whimsical one. I guess 14 maybe would take the cake now. But like 9 is a silly ass game and I love it for it. And so just to see them being like, no, same starting mission, except ours is going to be rated M for mature. And you're gonna watch chocobos bleed to death. And it's like, okay.
There was a scene in that the big icon fight, I guess what they're called, right? Where you're like the big kaiju fight, like the Clive inhabiting the giant. I don't remember, Ifrit, right? The giant like fiery creature rips off the leg of who they're fighting, and then the leg actually like grows back, and you can see all like the musculature and stuff like growing back, and it's like, oh my god, man, they're going for it here. This is weird.
I think it is probably again just like, well, Game of Thrones is popular. I mean, this game started development a long time ago, probably like peak Game of Thrones hype, and it's like, okay, I guess it has to be mature and bloody, and maybe they just love this stuff, They did say that they have an interesting approach for like difficulty this time around, where there's not like an easy mode per se. But that the way they're accommodating for a bunch of different types of players, especially Final Fantasy players, will be like, stylish action? I'm not going to be good at this. So the way they're doing it is there's like rings that you can like equip or attach to yourself. And those rings like slow it down more if you're about to take an attack, or make it so you auto heal and stuff, like the potions pop automatically. So it's like, it's kind of a cool approach to difficulty. Like there's one difficulty, but these items are going to be here if you want to equip them. And then if you feel confident enough, you can take them off as you go on through. But I'm very curious about it. It's coming out in June. PS5 exclusive. The PC thing has been a long debate about when this thing's coming to PC. And the messaging there was there is a 6-month exclusivity window, which is funny that we know for the PS5. So everyone's like, oh, it's coming to PC after that. But then in this press tour, they're like, well, actually porting it's really hard. So even though that we have a 6-month exclusivity window, like even when that's up, we're not going to be ready for the PC version, which is impressive that they're being so, transparent about it. But that's kind of the magic of Yoshi P, right? Taking lessons from trying to keep a community happy with 14. So there it is. Final Fantasy 16. Yeah, go check out everybody else's coverage, and I'm looking forward to playing it in the future. Kyle, what propelled you to go back to Minish Cap here?
Well, it was
the Minish Cap.
I'm sorry, the one and only Minish Cap. Yeah,
Minish Cap is my father. It was on my Switch. Like, It just appeared there one day, and
it's as simple as that. The Nintendo magic.
Hello, one of my favorite Zelda games. I'll dabble with you. Oh, suddenly I've played enough to see credits. Okay, that's how that happens sometimes.
Since you've played this freaking thing multiple times now, like playing it again, I'm always curious. Like, did it bump up where it's at in your overall ranking? Did it move it on the big meter of Zelda love?
No, it probably stays about where it was, wherever that was.
Which is what?
Like top 8?
8? Trash. Why are we talking about
Twilight Princess, Breath of the Wild, Ocarina, Majora's Mask. Actually Minish. So maybe top 5.
Top 5.
I'd have to really think about it. You're putting me on
but just for Zelda. Overall, where's the Zelda chunk in your overall list?
Yeah, could you run us down your top 100 games of all time real quick, Al?
I don't know, man.
Machete order, please.
Yeah.
I when I consider that list, I kind of like put Ocarina at number 1, and then I don't really place the other Zeldas. I feel like Ocarina gets the spot.
That's gross.
Yeah.
But you finished this thing. What'd you think going through it again?
It's great. It's so charming. It's like I think it's like it's maybe the most adorable Zelda. I guess Wind Waker. You could make an argument for Wind Waker maybe. But yeah, like the thing that I always liked about it, especially compared to the other 2D Zeldas, is like you can get like these new sword attacks. So you can like do rolls and stuff like that. You can like roll into a sword attack, and it just makes it feels like a small thing, but it permeates the whole game because you're moving around constantly. So to be able to roll and do attacks while you're rolling and stuff like that just makes the act of moving around a lot better. It's a smaller world overall compared to like Link to the Past. It's way more navigable than Link's Awakening. Like that was the thing going back to like the Link's Awakening remake was like, I really love this, but like getting from point A to point B is always so complicated because when they had to shrink that thing down for the Game Boy, they had to make like moving around feel very maze-like so that you could feel like you were moving a lot in what was ultimately a small space. But Minish Cap has the small sort of total area, but makes it much more easier to get to point A to point B, which I really like it for that reason. It's less of a maze and more of like, you know exactly where to go and how to get there.
Yeah, I was kind of struck like the first time you get the map and you open it up in the game and you realize like, oh, this isn't that big of a world. And it's like, oh wait, no, that's right. The entire premise of the game is shrinking down, so you're exploring so much more of the world, and the world's more interesting than you think.
You played it in the interest of this discussion. Did you play a lot of it? Had you played it before?
I probably had played like 4 hours before. I think when like the 3DS Ambassador thing came out, I played it there. And like, my friends played it back in the day, and so it was definitely in the discussion and whatnot. But then I went back and just like played through the first dungeon again, and I was struck by like, I forgot how there's flavors and hints of like Wind Waker even in this, because I didn't have the timeline, and not the Zelda timeline, but the Zelda release timeline, the only one that matters, like in my head properly, of thinking like, oh, it's weird that this came out a year or so after Wind Waker. And so even just seeing the influence of like, okay, when you kill an enemy, it'll still kind of explode in the pop of dust. Like there's Wind Waker flavors in here, which is something that I always just associated for like, okay, that's just for the DS entries. That's just Phantom Hourglasses when they're like, oh no, this is a continuation of Wind Waker. But there's a lot more Wind Waker in this, just design sensibilities, than I remembered.
It is Toon Link, right? That's his name. It is Toon Link in the game. He doesn't really look like it, but on the cover, it is 100% the Link from Wind Waker.
Yeah. It's also weird, looking at the timeline of this when this released, it came out November 4th, 2004, and then the DS released November 21st.
Yeah.
Like,
I played it on my DS. Yeah.
Oh, of course. Yeah, that's a perfect way to do it.
It was funny because like I was so excited about the DS that already Game Boy Advance was kind of like fading into the background. And I was like, oh yeah, new Zelda. I'm excited about that. I'll pick it up the day it comes out. And I had this weird moment where I was like playing it the first hour or so, and I was like, I don't know why I wasn't over the moon excited for this.
Right.
Like it almost felt like I was playing it I was excited for like a game from a previous generation. But then when I started playing it, I was like, oh my God, this is Zelda. This is a great Zelda. This is fantastic. Why was I like tepid about this? I don't know. It's just because the hardware made me think about it in a strange way.
But it's weird. I mean, you're not, I don't want to out you as a man who wrote a frickin' book about Zelda and stuff, but I know you're not head over heels for like 2D Zelda. So it's interesting that this one is so high up for you.
Yeah, I think it's like the the most with the Link, but you know what, Link Between Worlds I would put above Minish Cap, actually. Sure. Sort of reconsidering my list, but I think that Link Between Worlds and this are the most contemporary 2D Zeldas. Like they're the most modern. They feel the best. They take a lot of the lessons learned from the course of Zelda history, that improves them.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I liked it so much. Like I have more affection than Link to the Past, because I didn't play Link to the Past when it came out. I played it much later. Right. I played Link to the Past after Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask.
That's tough. Yeah. As great as
I still liked it. It's still a great game. I really loved it, but I don't have the nostalgia for it.
Yeah. It is funny. I went back and looked at GameSpot's review by one Brad Shoemaker. Wonder where he is these days. And he really loved Minish Cap, but then also he pointed out like it's a little short. That's going to dock it. Where it's like main path is like 15 hours. Like that seems, I guess.
I think my clock says like 20 or something.
Oh, really?
I did a lot of like side stuff.
Yeah, that seems good to me. But maybe back in that day, it seems, especially for handheld or think you want shorter experiences.
I think that era though too. That was just an important like bullet point on the review of like how long is it? And if it was short, then that was bad.
Right, right. And now we've just gotten lazy. And we're just bad at games now. But then he also
like it short.
It's funny because then he ended the review being like, well, with the DS on the horizon, like this is the last 2D Zelda we're gonna get, so we better enjoy it. Is kind of his attitude. It's like, oh, if only you knew, Link Between Worlds was right there, but Link Between Worlds is so damn good. You just gotta wait a little bit. Jeff and Janet, did you all jump in? Did you check this out at all? Did you play it back in the day? Don't be shy.
I didn't play it back in the day, and I am now currently on the mountain. And for me, it is that tie to A Link to the Past and feeling like, there was another Link to the Past that I never played, 15 years ago or whatever.
Hang on. I just want to cover my bases. I know you love Link to the Past, you're a big Super Nintendo kid. You have played Link Between Worlds, right?
No.
Oh, are you kidding me? God. Oh, Jeffem, what are you doing? What were you doing in 2013 that was so important?
I don't know. I don't even.
Tomb Raider.
Joel is heartbroken.
Which one was Link Between Worlds?
The 3DS sequel to Link to the Past.
In Japan, it's literally called Link to the Past 2.
Oh, remember you grabbed the cartridge and I think you wiped your ass with it, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have a. I'm looking at pictures of it now. I didn't have a 3DS, so I was checked out of Nintendo for that window of time, and it's not like even knowing about the Minish Cap. Yeah. It's like I love Link to the Past. That's where my nostalgia is. That's the one I played as a kid.
Right.
Have you heard about the sequel?
Yeah, the sequel's really good, man.
I know, but I played Ocarina of Time. I played Majora's Mask. Like I guess I wasn't super there. I didn't have like this urge to go back and play other older 2D Zeldas. Like I enjoyed the 3D Zeldas. It's just that I have a lot of love packed into Link to the Past. But yes, now that I was forced to play this because of Kyle forcing us all to play it, it was like, oh yeah, this is great. This has a lot of the charm and the style of this old classic that I enjoyed.
Biggest surprise for you so far?
I don't know that there's been a ton of surprises. I enjoyed the wind jug that you get. Some of the mechanisms with that, like launching yourself off the mushrooms. There've been just some surprising little weird mechanisms that, then they build into a bunch of puzzles. I like the giant barrel that you're rolling around in.
That looks surprisingly good. Yeah, in the first dungeon. Yeah, I was trying to remember, even at the first dungeon, like, I don't remember what the first item is. Like, I guess it should be bombs. Then using bombs to get rid of the cobwebs. That seems confusing, but fine. It's like, oh, that's right, the Gus jar. I completely forgot about that. And it's just like that perfect Nintendo magic of like, here's a Gus jar. It's going to be fun. The animation's going to be great. You're going to rip all these spider webs off the walls. And then here's the twist. You can use it to navigate a lily pad around as your like weird motor to get around the water in the dungeon. It's such a cool idea. Janet, did you play this thing?
Yeah, I dipped into it as well, following the cult of Kyle Hilliard. Yes, right. I played it yesterday. I streamed it. It's funny, you streamed it as well. Yeah. So we had like back-to-back streams. Like the chat was telling me like, oh, Ben was just playing this.
Oh, funny.
It was my first time playing it. I actually had watched Isaiah play some of it, my boyfriend, using his Raspberry Pi of Crime many years, like a year ago. I would never, because I wait years and years for Nintendo to maybe give me those games, you know?
Maybe
like
arguably
a true
longer
gamer.
than you should need to wait, one would say.
Yeah, who can say?
Yeah, I mean, you could have bought it. You know, they're selling it for like $125 at Walmart.com right now. The Minish cap.
Okay.
So talk about Nintendo Online finally giving you that value. But all silly jokes aside, yeah, played it for the first time. Only saw like a few minutes of it. Like totally forgot anything about it other than the festival. Because I watched him play that, and then he bounced off really fast and played Metro Fusion instead, which... I don't know, you know, sure. Metro Fusion's a great game.
Good game as well.
I love this game.
Ooh,
it is so good. It is stupid good. Like, and it's adorable, to Kyle's point. Like, it is, if you're a cute, cozy gamer and you're open to puzzles, because obviously there's a hell of a lot of puzzles in it, because it's 2D Zelda, this is like an absolute must play. Like, so many people, and it's funny because, like, you know, aesthetics and trends are cyclical, but right now, like, what's really hot in like that like cute cozy gaming community is definitely like fairy core stuff, wood stuff. So I'm like, just the little mushrooms. I'm like, people would lose their mind for this old game that is so relevant. And then like again, I didn't know anything going into this. I didn't know the cat talked. I was like, what's going on?
That's bizarre that you could just be checked out. Because you were a Game Boy Advance player back in the day, right?
Yeah, but I don't know. I only had, you know, there's only so many Christmases and birthdays while you have the Game Boy Advance. Maybe a few report card pickups because, you know, I was killing it there. But I didn't have a lot of, my Zelda history is so awkward too. Like I was reflecting on it yesterday and I have like Breath of the Wild, which 80 hours in didn't finish. Wind Waker, which I loved, but like, did I beat it? Maybe Edwin knows if I beat it. Probably not. Well, why do you say no?
Because you would remember, honestly. I don't mean that pejoratively. Like the ending of Wind Waker is very memorable.
Maybe, but a lot of things kind of fuzz for me.
It's a fuzz.
In childhood gaming.
I get it, but I always feel like whenever there's a doubt of like, did I finish that game? The answer is probably no. I think for everybody, it's just like you didn't do it.
It's relevant no anyway because it's like, okay, well I don't remember it, so like if I beat it, I'm gonna count that as like a new game I beat because I don't remember beating it. Then I have like Phantom of the Hourglass, which I loved, but I think some people didn't really care for.
You're making it into a musical.
That was like what Zelda was to me. 100%. Like that was like my Zelda game, Phantom of the Hourglass. Everyone's like, that throwaway random thing, that freak show.
Hey,
and I'm like, yeah, it was fun, except we had to close the DS. That was stupid.
Stupid.
Oh, I love that. That was the best part. That's Onuma's favorite Zelda that he worked on.
Is it really? Is that what he said?
Yeah, that's what he said.
I enjoyed it. I had fun. Like the people that got it. You know. I like that game. And that is kind of it. And I guess a little bit of Majora's Mask on the 3DS. But that was it. I don't think I'm like, have I beaten any of these Zelda games?
That's interesting.
But this time, and a little bit of Link's Awakening, but it got too hard on like the Switch.
Right. It's definitely, this game has kind of the looseness and the charm that I love from Link's Awakening. It's not as weird as Link's Awakening naturally, but just like it's maybe this is too much of a stretch, but like I feel like you can feel the Capcom at times bleeding through because Capcom technically developed this, but like just in the overworld, like one of the first enemies you fight is like the big stack of like yellow ducks with like blue bandanas on. They feel like serve bots. They feel just like some weirdo Mega Man enemy.
They show up in one area like almost exclusively and have like never been in another Zelda game.
It's so weird, but sure, why not? Like I love just the silliness of when you're the festival, great start to a game. Every game should open like in a festival like Chrono Trigger. But then as you're working your way north, there's like that Deku shrub that you have to take out with the shield or whatever. And then he's like, hey, I'm trying to just actually hawk my wares at the festival, but I keep getting attacked because every time I try to talk to people, nuts fly out of my mouth and it attacks them. Where it's like, wait, is this just rewriting all Zelda lore? Then every Deku little shrub guy is trying to speak and just accidentally launching nuts out of their mouth to attack you. It's good. That's good Zelda lore stuff. This is the stuff that matters, everybody. The whole development history of this game, Kyle, like I like knowing developers' names. I feel like last week, if you would have put a gun to my head and said, what is the name of the director for Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom? I don't know if I could have gotten it. Could you have?
No, which is embarrassing, honestly. I know it's the guy. He also did Skyward Sword, and I know he did Minish Cap, and I know he did Oracle of Ages and Seasons.
Yep.
But I can't pull his name.
Of course. Yeah, it's weird to just think of how long he goes back, but it's Fujibayashi. Hidemaru Fujibayashi. Yeah, he goes back to working on like the Oracle games, and the fact that he is really, I mean, you know, it's easy to assign all the praise to one person. That's not fair. But like for somebody that is that talented, I think it's tough when it's like, well, Zelda, a lot of people maybe would think Miyamoto. It's like, okay, that's been a while since that wasn't the case. And then maybe they go to Anuba and it's like, well, he's the producer, but the guy who's been directing all of these and truly some of the greatest games of all time is Fujibayashi. And this is one of his bigger early efforts here. So it's fun to try and think of it.
Did he do Link Between Worlds actually?
Ooh, that's a good question.
So let's see. Wikipedia credits a director, Hiromasa Shikata.
Okay.
For Link Between Worlds.
And then was he maybe co-director for Breath of the Wild? Is that where he eventually moved on to?
Look him up.
Yeah.
Kyle, look him up.
Very relevant reference.
I love that song.
I got it. But yeah, Fujibayashi, I didn't realize that he worked on a game that I had never heard of, and I'm kicking myself about it. But it's called Magical Tetris Challenge. Is his first game, apparently, that he was a designer and director on.
Oh, really?
Do you know this game, Jeffem?
No.
Well,
but you had me at Magical Tetris.
What if I told you
it does sound good.
It's Tetris, but it has a bunch of old Disney characters in it. So it's just like Disney characters on the sides, but it's like, Kyle, help me out, Disney fan. It's like the weird dog characters from like the 30s.
Pluto.
No, I mean Pluto's probably in there. Who's
Goofy?
Like, no, the evil big thick dog guy.
The sick dog guy?
Bruiser. Evil dog in Disney.
Or like, is that cute cat? The like with the,
no.
She has like a pink bow?
No, I'm thinking of Pete. Pete, the old dog character. Pete, look him up. Look him up, Janet. Look him up. You'd recognize Pete. You'd recognize
All right,
Pete.
now I have to. Them's the rules.
But it's fun to think of like, okay, if you really want to research the director for Tears of the Kingdom, you got to go back and play Disney Tetris.
Oh yeah,
everybody.
I know this guy.
Yeah. Oh, Pete. You know Pete. You know from Pete. But then it's fun, like it all interconnects too, because Kyle, was it a piece of concept art or in that GDC talk at some point they talked about how they were originally going to include the Minish in Breath of the Wild, right? And then it was cut pretty late.
I don't think it was even concept art. I think it was actually like assets, like in-game assets. I think like if you look up Breath, like let's all just look up stuff.
Okay.
But it seems like they were at least really playing with the idea of bringing Minish into Breath of the Wild, but they cut it to the point where I'm like, maybe that makes it into Tears of the Kingdom.
Maybe they don't have enough to work on. Yeah, it's interesting actually hearing Kit and Krista on the Kit and Krista podcast. They were talking about the last trailer for Tears of the Kingdom and like people debating whether you can make your own cars and stuff. And they're like, well, Fujibayashi's really into car culture. It's like, oh, nobody else knows that. So it's awesome to have Kit and Krista from the inside of Nintendo be like, oh, he's nuts about cars. It's like, okay, that adds a little more fuel to the idea of that being a whole blown out system for this whole thing. But I was thinking, Kyle, with Minish Cap, and I was going back and reading like old interviews with them, talking about the development of this game, and they were talking about like, okay, obviously a core component of Zelda is to have like the two different worlds. Obviously, you got your light world, dark world, all that stuff, and here we're gonna have the big world, small world. Do you think they're kind of getting back to that with Tears of the Kingdom and the idea of like overworld, normal world, or sky world and Hyrule?
No. I don't think so. I mean, because I don't really think of Skyward Sword as having two worlds.
Yeah.
Right? And that was more just like up here and down here.
Right.
Where this Minish Cap, which is a brilliant approach like that I love, if they're going to do like a Dark World, Light World, I love this sort of Minish implementation, especially like later in the game. I don't know if you guys have gotten this far, but like you hit a point where you can basically explore the whole town as a Minish.
Ooh.
And like you can actually get into the walls and like find other Minish in the coffee shop and stuff like that. And there's like a lot of puzzles around that.
That's sweet.
And I love that. I love going and like doing some stuff at a dungeon and coming back and finding more pathways in the town that you can explore as a Minish. Like that, I love that stuff. It's so good.
How is it not just huge if you're going to like a human town and then going Minish size?
Well, you like can go into little like nooks and crannies. Like I haven't gotten that far. So where we are, I'm around where Jeffem's at, I think, where I did the first dungeon, hung out in the town. Then I got like a little bit lost, but it's okay. I figured it out. Someone told me the answer. And then I went up the mountain, and now I'm like I just started the cave, like the lava cave or something.
Okay.
I'm butchering that. It's hot. Because the hat's like, yo, it's hot as hell in here. We gotta get going. Right. Also, the hat is so like. Y'all don't. The hat's so sassy too. I
didn't expect that. Like right when you get him, he's like, "Oh, such a hopeless child." It's like maybe there's a reason that just culturally, I feel like Eslo has not
He's mean Cappy.
He's mean Cappy, but like, Kyle, am I wrong? Like on the list of like Zelda characters, he's number 78 at best. Like Ezlo, that name even it has not permeated the wider gaming nerd culture, from my perspective at least.
No, he hasn't stuck around. Yeah, which is too bad because he is fun. Yeah, I like Ezlo.
You like him? That guy?
Yeah, me and Ezlo, we're good.
Okay.
Cool.
I wish he helped out a little bit more. Like again, my Zelda history is funky, but like you can do playing on Switch, like hitting like the minus button. He'll be like, hey, did you forget where you're going, you idiot? It's here. And I'm like, okay, cool. But what if you could tell me a little more than that? Like, like I was so badly want him to be a little bit more like the phone in Link's Awakening or whatever. Yeah. And like the game looks gorgeous too. Like when I was streaming it, everyone was commenting on how like well the art and like the look of it just holds up. And like, it's such a pretty fun, whimsical game that's full of lovely surprises. Like I'm eating this game up and it's not too hard so far.
Yeah.
No, it kind of pertains that. I mean, and as Zelda goes, I mean, the more hearts you get, the more you're just like, just pushing your way through dungeons and stuff without caring much because you got like 2 rows of hearts at that point.
What's the puzzles that are hard to me? Not the combat. The combat's like, it's fine, you just swing around. We know how to do that. But like some of the puzzles in Zelda games can like, that's why I stopped playing Link's Awakening, because at a certain point, I was quite literally reading a guide and staring at the screen, doing what the guide said. And I'm like, what's going on? I kind of want to piece out if it's that deep.
On my replay, it's hard to say with puzzles because it's like I've technically played this before, even if I really don't remember any of them. But like there was only one instance that I had to look up something where I had to go talk to someone in town, and like I was like, oh, you got to find this academic. And I was like, what? where is that? And then even when I got the answer, I was like, I never would have thought to look there. But that's not really a puzzle. That's just like, I didn't know where that one thing was.
Well, I was reading, according to this Brad Shoemaker, that there's like a later ability where you can like make copies of yourself. And that sounds like it'd be pretty elaborate for puzzles later on and stuff.
So it's the last Clockwinder also.
It's exactly
this game's everything.
Right.
It's also Super Mario Sunshine with the lily pad and the wind.
That's right. That's right.
Mm-hmm. The copy thing is actually more about pushing like a big block. Like there needs to be 3 of us to push this block.
Interesting.
But yeah, that part's all fun because that gets into like 4-sword lore.
Yes.
Not that we need to go into Zelda lore or anything, but like that
4-sword lore and sorry, go ahead.
Like that stuff was still pretty recent in Zelda. Like I think 4 Swords had come out after Wind Waker, right? But before Minish Cap.
Is that right? Yeah, because
it was interesting to contextualize it in like a single player game. It's like, yeah, you can make copies of yourself to solve puzzles and stuff like that.
And then they share the same villain with Vadi?
Yes, Vadi is the main villain. It was funny in the I'm not gonna spoil anything, but like in the end fight against him, Ezlo's big tip, just talking about how useless he kind of is and giving you tips. He was like, it took me a while to remember, like to figure out what I was supposed to do, and I was like taking a lot of hits. And he actually, I didn't even press the button. He paused the game and he was like, hey, why don't you use one of those contraptions you've collected through the course of the game? And I was like, thanks, Ezlo. I haven't been trying every contraption in my inventory up to this point.
This is all I got, man.
Your input here.
It looks like 4 Swords came out, March of 2004. Okay. So like a year after Wind Waker then, but before this thing. That's awesome. Legends of Zelda Minish Cap. Curious to hear everybody else's thoughts if everyone else is playing it at home. Janet, you think you're going to keep streaming it?
I think so. I like it so much that I'm kind of tempted just to go on my own, but realistically, I'm like, well, I have other things I need to get to, so maybe I can't make this just a stream game. Plus, it helps to like have chat there in case I need help with things.
Yeah.
Though I also have 3 monitors, and I'm not above using one to pull up a guide just to see what the thing I got stuck on. Which really quick, Jeff, I'm curious if you said you got stuck on something during your playtime, right? For me, the light spoilers for the puzzle, in case you care. It was the water. That the water needed to, the mineral water was the green water. And also that you could pick up the seed, because I wasn't looking at the UI as much when I was like running into the seed. Also, once I started hitting that rewind button, I never stopped. I would rewind. I'm like, and it was funny because for like 10, 20 minutes, I kept going down to the base, getting more water, going back up, pouring it somewhere else. And then after like 20 minutes, I'm like, wait, I can rewind. Why have I been not rewinding?
After I got like the first element or whatever, the old guy's like, hey, go to this other thing and take the side door out. And I left and I was like, and then I put it down, and started the next night or something. I was like, wait, where was I supposed to go? And then I looked all around, and then I even went back to him, and he was like, yeah, take the side door again. It's like, somebody just tell me which one of these 3 spots. I had a hard time just finding the way to the mountain, I think. Like I traced back every single route. Those stupid construction workers were blocking me from Lawn Ranch. It was like there was just nowhere for me to go until I finally met the one guard who was like, you got to show me that you can do a spin attack or something. Like, okay, finally. And then there's just been a series of things where it's like, okay, finally I figured out where to go. And then I'm in another small little area, and it's like, wait, what the hell am I supposed to do? I can't climb these walls. I can't, but I haven't gotten as stuck since then, and I just got the gloves, so now I can actually climb
Also,
stuff.
fair or foul that like you meet that one like little, what are they called? Are they the Deku scrubs?
Oh, sure.
And he's like, hey, someone to the east of here, he has something to help you. My brother has something to help you. And the thing to help you, you have to buy. I thought I would just get this as a gift. 40 rubies. I was grinding for these rubies because I spent it all in that big wallet.
No such thing as a free lunch.
Knowing I didn't have any money to put in the big wallet. But at the time, I was rolling 100 rubies deep. Like, I needed the space. Then suddenly I became broker than you've ever seen. Like, I was just out there respawning blades of grass.
Yeah, that's
praying.
tough. That's tough.
Yeah,
That's tough.
I did the same thing, but then I had to like lap around the map like 4 times until I figured out where I was going. So I had enough money by the time I got back to that guy.
Yeah, like,
and
I was like,
speaking
when he
of those
says
Deku
east,
shrubs,
what does he mean?
Those Deku shrubs are like, you run into like 6 of those guys. It's like, okay, another one in a cave. He's going to give me something new. Like, I think that's how you get the gloves too. It's just like, those guys are all over the place. They're just waiting to hand out their item.
Please, somebody
it's a whole
come talk
like,
to us.
monopoly they got going on there.
Yeah,
That's right.
Did you guys get kinstones? Have you guys unlocked that yet?
Yeah,
That might be.
What's driving me crazy about it, and someone at me the answer because I don't care anymore. I also appreciate how much my chat like didn't really help, which in a good way. Like I think they let me figure things out, but it took a long time to figure out some stuff. But again, I'm figuring it out, and that's fun. There was a guy who I swear to God was like, hey, do you know what these are? Give me one if you know. You don't know? Oh, you're dumb. Bye. And I was like, cool. And I left on my little Minish way, and I grew up and I walked around, and then I got the stuff, at the town, and they're like, oh yeah. And then you like, you blend hearts together. Again, an adorable game. Your heart meets my heart, and now something nice will happen. Like, it's so cute. But I'm like, where's the guy who said like, come back when I went all over town, like all over the map looking for him, and I never found the original, God, what are they called? The Minish that told me, like, hey, do you know what these are? Like, do you have one? I don't know.
I mean, if you maybe you totally know this, but if you get close to a character, like a white bubble will appear over their head, and if that happens, they'll trade a kinstone. So you can just like, beeline to every person and see if they're looking for kinstones.
Yeah, I think I might
actually talk to them.
I might be missing they did tell me that because he was like, I'm going to explain. And then the explanation was really long. He's like talking for like 4 minutes. And then he's like, did you get all that? And I literally recorded the conversation and said, sure. I don't know what he was saying. So I had to re-go around. But like, I was really impressed by how fleshed out the town was and how like fun and alive and how many shops. And then like the little side quests of this woman needing to get her chickens back. And I'm chasing these chickens around town. And like, I was just really... To me, like, I guess my overall takeaway with the Minish Cap was, as someone that has jumped around from like different Zelda games out of order, it's a real stark reminder to what makes this franchise great, which is like charm, well thought out puzzles, and I think getting a lot of juice out of singular tools. Because like getting that wind thing, like I'm like, oh, I'm just vacuum cleaning everything, and it's awesome.
It's just
and the
Luigi's
only thing I
Mansion,
don't like about the game is that I can't swap my second item more easily. You got to go to the menu. Like, come on now, let's put something over that. Like,
it's
just
some
even
old
a
Link's
button to
Awakening
hot
nonsense.
swap them would be nice.
Totally.
Every time you need a bomb,
Yeah,
it's frustrating. Kyle,
I just wanted real quick the kinstone thing. I really like that system just because it like gives you sort of an interaction with nearly every secondary character in the game. It's really satisfying to collect those. I hit a point where I only had like 4 left because Tingle will actually tell you how many are left in the game, and at that point it was definitely like I can't find 4 people, and even Googling it isn't helping because it's like I can find a list of all 150 or whatever, but it's like,
right,
I don't know how many of these I've gotten. But even with that little annoyance, which is mainly just me not being able to 100% it. I really like that system. I think it's cool just to have an excuse to like meet and interact with every character in the game in some way.
Kyle, final question about Minish Cap. In Zelda games, do you have to collect 4 pieces of the heart to get a new chunk of the heart because there are 4 chambers in a real heart?
No, I think it's just a mechanic.
It's just a mechanic, Jeff. I told you. I think
it's because the royal hearts have 4 of them.
Obviously. I see. I got it.
One of them you have to get 6, I think. Am I misremembering?
I don't know.
I feel like there's one where you have to get more than 4.
That's maybe a real twist. All right, Minish Cap, everybody. It's on Nintendo Switch Online if you want to play it on a beautiful system. Great handheld thingy. Let's see. Pokemon Presents it was called the Pokemon Presents on Pokemon Day on Monday. I streamed a reaction to it with Haley McLean, MinnMax's community manager. It was sweet of her to jump in, and she's like into like competitive Pokemon and stuff. Like we all like Pokemon, but she's at that another stratosphere of like, okay, I'm intimidated by this. So I just was quiet the entire stream because I was so intimidated. But it is a bit of a dud for the overall stream. Jeff, am I assuming you didn't see any of this nonsense?
No, I heard there were sleeping Pokemon though.
There's sleeping Pokemon. I'll definitely get to that. First of all, new Netflix show called Pokemon Concierge, which is like stop motion Pokemon White Lotus, seems to be the overall idea. You're at some tropical resort and it's a stop motion Netflix Pokemon show, which is weird, and sure, I'm on board for it. Updates here and there, and then Pokemon Sleep. Yeah, this was maybe the oddest thing because they teased it back in 2019. And it's just been kind of like a punchline of like, hey, when do they get back to Pokemon Sleep? That sounds like a stupid idea. And so they finally had the big unveiling here. And Kyle, what is it according to your recollection?
I don't know, man. I would think I was literally asleep during this presentation. I caught up later.
What is wrong with
you? It's a sleep tracker with the Pokemon theme, right?
Yeah, and Janet,
you can buy something to put under your pillow.
Yeah, the Pokemon. Oh God, the something plus plus.
Yep, it's literally, Pokemon Go.
I know I make the joke about PS plus plus. This is real. They called it.
It's the Pokemon Go plus plus. Yes, and it's like a little Pokemon device that you press when you're going to sleep.
Pikachu lives inside of it,
and then you wake up with it. But by and large, it's just Pokemon Sleep. Yeah, as an app, and then you put it in your bed and it can detect when you're tossing and turning.
So the app is a sleep tracking app, yes. If you use the one that I use like currently for sleep tracking, it's called Sleep Cycle, and it runs similar analytics where it seems like it has, you know, your time that you go to sleep, the sleep waves a little bit, and it kind of couches your sleep into 3 buckets. One is like dozing, one is something else, and one is like slumbering or something like that. And they also associate your sleep patterns with different Pokemon. So as you sleep, you can like collect Pokemon. It's like, oh, you got the like droopy ear sleep last night. And then you get like a Pikachu that has like little droopy ears.
So you'd like want to sleep differently every night? Isn't that the opposite of the goal?
Okay, I got a lot of questions on here. Okay,
it's
so yes,
really weird.
I wonder if and they mentioned like the more you sleep, like there are some like really rare sleep patterns you can unlock. My confusion is it all completely, absolutely tied to how my sleep performs? Because if so, like, there's no way I could collect that many. So I imagine there's some element of randomization. Like if you're familiar with Pokemon Smile, which is their toothbrushing app.
Of course we all used it.
Yeah, I mean, I've used it. Like
I've used it. I've used it.
It's good. It's like it does, and if you have kids, it's even better because you're usually teaching them how to like brush their teeth. You know? There you get a Pokemon by random. So I imagine there's maybe some associations, but I would imagine there'd have to be some aspect of randomization just to keep it fresh. The app itself needs to be on your nightstand. It doesn't need to be on your bed. But if you use the Pokemon Go plus plus device, that is implied that it has to be more on your bed because in the video images they showed it on your bed as opposed to on the nightstand. But you can put just the phone on the nightstand.
I don't understand. Did I miss something? How does that work then? How does it know how well you're sleeping if the phone's just on the nightstand?
Oh, so like, I mean, I'm not like a technological expert in this field, but a lot of apps have advanced to the point where they can track your like movements and your breathing and little things to be able to pick up on that data. Again, using the Sleep Cycle example, which is an app that I use. Back when they first launched it, it had to be by your pillow because they didn't advance the technology enough. Now it's on your nightstand, so it doesn't need to be in the bed with you.
Microphones, right?
Like it just
listens to you, Hanson.
Yeah.
It's hearing how much you're like shuffling around and farting in your sleep and stuff?
Yeah, and it's also, the technology has advanced to the point where, again, I only have this one example because it's the only app I use for sleep, where it can even detect, at least the one I use, like if you have a partner, like your sleep versus your partner's sleep, like the one I use can like track like our snores and which snore is mine and which is his, and like coughs and sleep. Like this stuff goes really deep if you look at the software in the market. Now, to bring it back to Pokemon Sleep, what I'm curious about is how in-depth, like as someone that does use a sleep app currently, how in-depth are the analytics going to be? And the number one thing that I don't know yet, because they haven't talked about it yet, is how does the alarm function? Because my alarm functions as a smart alarm, where I have the option for it at least, where I have a 30-minute window where I say I want to wake up at 8:30. It will wake me up between 8 and 8:30 based on when I'm at the lightest point in my sleep.
That's kind of cool.
And it's absolutely the best way I've ever woken up. It is perfect. It works better than anything for me personally. So if this app has that, I will be all in on this. But I am worried that it won't have that, and it will ultimately just be, hey, do I want to have like a good alarm, or do I want to have this cute Pokemon thing, which I'll definitely try it regardless when it comes out. But that's my number one, fingers crossed, for the application so far. And the Pokemon Go Plus thing, the cute thing is you can hit the button there to start the sleep alarm and hit it when you wake up. And it sounds like Pikachu. And like Pikachu's inside of it is like the joke, and it's like Pika Pika, and then you like go to sleep and they're like, it's like you're sleeping next to a Pikachu. My other question though is, will it have like what kind of sleep integration support will it have? Because I have like ocean sounds that I can run on my app. Will they have that? They say Pikachu can sing you lullabies, but I don't want that because that's scary. Anyway, that's my sleep rant. I know a lot on this, and I've been watching this for a long time.
Janet, so you can still have like sound going, like a sleep sound, and it still knows how you're sleeping?
Yeah, for my app that I use, which again is Sleep Cycle. I have the pro version. I'm grandfathered in because I bought it like a long time ago. Now it's like a monthly, I think. And again, that's not the only app like that on the market. It's just the app that I use. But yeah, it can have the sleep sounds on there. I can even have like, mine goes really deep where you can have like people reading you stories, or like different, like, kind of like in the vein of, if you're familiar with the Headspace app, Headspace also offers a lot of different supports for like meditation or sleep and things. Yeah. So I'm wondering how deep will Pokemon Sleep go in that regard. If they have the smart alarm, there's no reason that I can't just hot swap these out. But yeah, I was very impressed with what I saw in terms of it also providing deeper analytics, because I was worried it would just be like an alarm, and it's well, whatever.
Well, they made it clear in the video that, quote, it's a game that makes you look forward to waking up. So
thank God. Because I'm not gonna lie to y'all, some days I could use a reason,
Really?
And
that was the most depressing thing I've ever heard in my life. Like, I need Pokemon to look forward to being alive in the morning.
Alive's not doing it enough for me.
Jesus Christ!
It's not enough for me to be hyped about it. I gotta have something more, and I like the idea of like giving me a little incentive, because I don't get that right now in my current app.
Breathing on Earth is your incentive.
I'm going to do that anyway. Why? Okay. What's to stop another 30 minutes from starting that process? That's the thing. But here it's like, also something that I really liked doing with Pokemon Smile back when I used it is, when I got a Pokemon, me and my boyfriend would play like 20 questions on could he guess what Pokemon I got.
That's fun.
So
that's fun.
I'm hoping Pokemon Sleep can reintroduce some of that, because I stopped using the Smile app just because I just felt like not using it anymore. But
Janet, thank you for having something to say about Pokemon Sleep other than that's a cute weird thing.
I will have a full report when this drops. Y'all are welcome to sleep on your own accord in your own domicile, and I will meet up with y'all after the fact.
Look forward to Janet's solo The Deepest Dive on Pokemon Sleep when it releases summer 2023. It's going to be awesome.
You guys have to put that on New Show Plus.
I'm just knocked out.
Pokemon Sleep, and it's just like a stream of you guys like laid down and trying to sleep.
That sounds so uncomfortable.
I mean, I don't know if I'd want to sleep live on camera, but I can sleep almost anywhere at any time. I'm drinking coffee right now. I swear, you give me $100, I could fall asleep in the next 30 minutes. Easy.
Janet, I will give you $100 if you sleep in the next 30 minutes.
Are you serious?
Yeah, we're just gonna be talking about like Scars Above and crap you haven't played before. I mean, you'll miss the Horizon Forbidden West conversation.
No, she has to be here for Horizon.
Okay, community questions. Try and fall asleep. Okay, and then also they announced DLC for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, which I wanted to get excited about, but it didn't really. The trailer.
See, I should ask for $200. Always ask for more, y'all. Learn that from watching this. I could have easily gotten $250 out of bed.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Should have been a Patreon goal.
Yeah. So Pokemon Scarlet about the hidden treasure of Area Zero, and it's like 2 phases. Part 1 is the teal mask. Part 2. Oh, good night, Jeffem.
He's so excited about the DLC. He's spinning.
I'm going to bed. See you guys.
Good night. Yeah. But yeah, part 2 is
for the audio listener. Jeffem's camera fell over. It was very funny.
It was very good.
I kicked the cord.
Yeah, you know what? We're okay. The Scarlet and Violet DLC. You're going to the past and you're going to the future, which is kind of cool. It's coming out fall 2023, winter 2023. But the trailer didn't really get me hyped.
Which, Kyle, do you typically do the DLC on Pokemon games? Because I know you were really hot on like the mainline game.
No. I guess because like Sword and Shield was the first one to get DLC, right?
Yeah.
Because everything up to that point, everything else had been a re-release with added content. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not play the Sword and Shield DLC. I played more of the Scarlet and Violet than I did Sword and Shield ultimately.
Yeah. And Sword and Shield's DLC was kind of funky. It was like that one that's kind of, it was them taking the first steps into the open world. And I was like, okay, we kind of see where you're going here. And then it kind of paid off. But yeah, I'm curious to see how that goes. Of course, the internet's abuzz because there was a leak that correctly predicted a lot of this stuff. And it also said, by the way, then the second piece of DLC is going to time up with the launch of the new Switch hardware in 2023. And our Lord and Savior Jeff Grubb over there at Giant Bomb is also saying, like, I've heard rumors that the Nintendo Switch Pro might be real again. So we can't do it. We cannot do it. We're not going to take the bait. If it comes out,
honestly,
that's great.
If it's not coming with Tears of the Kingdom,
yeah,
like honestly,
yes.
like what better avenue would they would delay Tears of the Kingdom to launch with that? If
yes,
it was like,
I would think so. I would hope so at least. But you know what, Kyle? That would be the logical thing to do. And Nintendo, I'm just trying to protect my
prediction from a couple episodes ago.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's very important. God, I can't wait to watch Kyle eat his butt on air. That's going to be amazing. Okay, there's a game called
Attempt to eat his butt.
No, that wasn't part of the bet, buddy. There is this game.
Do or do not.
There is no try.
There is no attempt.
There's a game called Scars Above. That is out now. I know review embargoes are up. Let me see when this thing is actually
out. Yeah, that's a good question.
But February 28th. Oh, it's out. It's out, baby.
There you go.
This is a game that it's from a developer called Madhead Games. Really out of the blue for me. Booted it up on Steam and played it. And the premise is sci-fi, third person, a little Tomb Raider 2013, a little Soulsborne inspiration in there as well. Feels a little Returnal, but maybe all of those connections.
Vibes.
Returnal
mechanics.
Yes, but not a roguelike. And I started playing it and I was like, this feels very Kyle-y. And so I wanted to make sure that you played this. Kyle, what did you think of Scars Above?
I liked what I played.
Really?
It is funny to go into it because you were like, have you played Scars Above? And I was like, I haven't touched it yet.
Yes.
And you just said, I think you should check it out. And like when you get a recommendation like that, you go into it and you're like, what is it that they think that I will like about this? You know?
Yes.
And it was the Returnal vibes, I think. That was like, that I was like, this must be what he's... But it feels like a very like, serious... I don't mean serious... Like, just like... Like the word mature feels right, but I'm not. But when you say mature in video games, it sounds like you mean like
Final Fantasy 16, right?
But it's just like adults on a space station, and it's kind of like is what I took from it, and it seems cool so far. Yeah, it's like a third person action game where you're on an alien planet, and it's like the production value is indie.
It's you know what? So Prime Matter published it. And I don't think they're publisher, but they have some connections to Kingdom Come Deliverance. And I was like, that makes sense. It has a little bit of that jank feel. It feels like Team punching a little bit above their weight, but would have been a pretty cool AAA game in like 2014. You know, it's an odd one to try and place. I'm in a weird spot with Scars Above where I'm like, I don't think it's a good game, but I really liked playing like an hour and a half of it. You know what I mean? It's like I think there's just something comforting, as Easy Allies would put it, like swimming in sevens. It just feels like it's...
Yeah, I think that's fair.
There's something appealing about it, and it feels almost like a throwback experience in a world where we're all kind of horrified by Suicide Squad's Battle Pass. It's like something that feels kind of like a sci-fi Tomb Raider 2013 experience. Like I'm kind of into it.
Like if it had released on the Xbox 360, we'd really have a lot of fond memories of this.
Right.
But yeah, it's like I liked what I played. You're scanning things, so it's like a little bit of Metroid Prime in there, because you're on a weird alien planet scanning things. And
We should point out before Jeffem says a word. I don't want him to open his fat lips, but
fat lips.
We should point out like.
Some 41.
This game, it's like it tickled me. At the same time, like reviews have not been kind. People are like, this thing sucks. So
I mean, maybe it has a good first impression because, like, I think you and I've probably only played like an hour. Or something.
Janky, but like, captivating first impression. Then it goes downhill from there. But all right, Jeff, here we go. The floor is yours.
All right. Well, none of you said Dark Souls.
I said Soulsborne. I said Soulsborne.
Did you?
Did you? Check the tape. Yeah. Check the tape.
Yeah. I mean, that's like the core format of how you're kind of exploring the world. I think it is. You guys are right. It's a testament to kind of how the base development tools of Unreal Engine and stuff have allowed smaller indies to make games that punch above their weight. The idea that this has me excited for where indie games will be in another 10 years or so. Like how well can you compete with larger games? Because I don't think it is competing with any Soulsborne game, or there's obviously some Dead Space feeling and Returnal kind of all of the kind of themes and games that it's pulling from. I think it's doing a worse job, unfortunately. And I think that's where a lot of the criticism is coming. It does feel derivative, and it's like, if I want to play one of these games, why would I choose this and not the better thing that it's kind of aping? But it makes me want to see what this indie developer does next. It's a good step towards something larger, and kind of like it just doesn't have the polish. It doesn't have kind of the level design I don't super love. I think the shooting is actually pretty good. Yeah. It feels pretty good, but it's just it feels like an indie game of like, we want to make our dream game. We want to make a game that was inspired by these things. So it's got to have, the Soulsborne mechanism. It's got to have a skill tree, which I'm sorry, but that skill tree is the most boring skill tree I've seen. Like, there are tiers to it, and the thing that like really encapsulated my feelings of this game last night was I looked through all the abilities. They're all boring. When you get to the top, you kind of have two branches of this skill tree, and the top two, they're in a tier of their own. On each side, there's only one like ultimate ability that you get, and on one side, it's enemies do 15% less damage to you, and on the other side, it's you do 15% more damage to enemies.
Sounds great. Sounds great.
That's right.
This skill tree doesn't have to exist, and it's like they've kind of pared down a larger experience. I feel like you probably could have pared down even more, and like if you're an indie team, like it's great that they're swinging for the fences, but I feel like maybe consolidate things a little bit more, focus on maybe one or two interesting mechanisms, and go from there. But the flip side of that is like I wasn't super into the gameplay, and I kind of I can see all the criticism there, but it's like, yeah, but if an indie team can take the Unreal Engine and make something that is this good, you know, like that's a good sign for the future, I think.
Yeah, there's something just weirdly comforting about like jumping into this game, and it is. You've seen a lot of these beats before, not too long ago, in a bunch of different games and experiences and stuff. But just like it's kind of comforting for like, oh, okay, woman lands on strange, mysterious sci-fi planet. She touches an alien artifact and has a vision that she can't quite comprehend. It's like the most cliche sci-fi stuff. Where it's like, if you're in the right mood, it's like, you know what? I do need to ask Kyle to play this, because this might scratch an itch for him.
And I mean, I'm a sucker for sci-fi to begin with, and so like all of that stuff was working on me more than it probably should have.
Right. Even if you feel like you know exactly where it's going to go. Like, okay, we're on a strange alien planet. Why are there pieces of the ship here, but they're covered in moss? Like they've been here a long time. It's like, okay, I think I got it. But yeah, Scars Above. It's on. It's on last gen as well. They also get together
at the end of romantic comedies, Hanson. I don't want to ruin that.
Come on now.
You could never ruin this genre for me.
That's right. Oh wait, Janet's awake. Oh, you didn't fall asleep, so that means you owe me $100, Janet. I think is.
That's not how that works. You know what? The check's in the mail.
Okay, all right. I'm looking forward
to sign it. Oh, what's
this? Is dastardly.
The old forgot to sign the check. Buys you a couple extra weeks.
One other thing about Scars Above, I couldn't get it to work on Steam Deck. I don't know why. It just I couldn't get past the start screen, which was a bummer because I'd like to play it there. So
not optimized.
Maybe they'll update it.
But yeah, it's weird that it's also on last gen and stuff. And if you see it in motion, you might understand that. Like feeling it, it's like a little clunky. Okay, you know what? Scars Above. Hey, I'm glad they released it. It's a weird thing. Horizon Forbidden West. Legend tells us of this game that Janet had to climb up the mountain. She took the call of the mountain to try and trudge this game to the top of the 210s, and oh how she fell. Oh how she rolled down the hill. No, it was up there. You did a good job, Janet. But now, Jeffem, you went back and finished it, or where are you at for Forbidden West?
Yeah, my wife was on a real open world kick. I can't take credit for it. It was mostly my wife. She beat Nier Automata.
Nier Automata, yep.
And then she was like, what other open world action games are there that I can play on the Switch? And I was like, just give it up. You've played them you've played everything you can on the Switch.
Yeah.
Just try an actual console game already. And so she played.
Oh, an actual console. Brutal review of the Switch.
It comes out now.
Yeah, I didn't mean it like that. Apologies. I love my Switch. We get a ton of enjoyment.
We know how you feel, buddy.
This hybrid freak show that's on its way out the door. I understand.
Do you guys play on the TV at all, or is it all handheld? Just as
I have never docked that thing to my television.
What?
So
okay, now you're just being like petty though. You're like those people who are like, oh, I've never had pizza. Just eat it.
I mean, honestly, it's part of like. I got it from the community as a gift when we had our baby. And so I've only had it at the same time as having a baby. And it is so convenient. Like, do I want to hook it up to a TV and play it and have that be the thing going on in the living room while my kids run around? Or do I just want to play it right here? And
how do you charge it then? Do you just put it to any USB-C, like an iPad, basically?
I use the actual charger, but because the charger is not hooked up to the dock, because the dock is in a box somewhere that I've never.
So you're just using the AC like USB-C charger, and that's just it. Like the dock is just somewhere else. Okay, I'm sorry for derailing you. Also, we should be on the same team Forbidden West, but I had to.
We have very valuable little time. And so I'm sorry I said real console, but for my wife, she's been very resistant to that. She's like, oh, I don't want to play a game. The controller. It looks confusing to me or whatever. And it's like, you're using the same control schemes on the Switch anyway. But so finally she played Forbidden West, or she played Zero Dawn. She played through the entirety of Zero Dawn.
Wow.
100%ed that thing.
What?
And then, yes, she went crazy and she loved it. and so then she was like, I want to start Forbidden West. And she's like, when are you going to get back to it? And I was like, we're just going to have to play together because you can't wait for me to try and go back and beat it. And so she started on it. She played through, like the first 12 hours or whatever that I played. And that was the first thing that made me think of poor Janet, because there was a part like 10 hours into it where it was like, it was something that I completely forgot during our discussions and moments and things where I was like, oh, things are about to get super crazy. I told her things are going to get crazy. You're not going to like it, but it's going to be exciting. And it's just like my biggest takeaway from playing through the entire thing with her now is that I just feel bad for that game. I feel bad that no one else cares about this franchise because
it is Jeffem, with you, me, and your wife.
I know. It's honestly one of the best open world series that has been out in the past few years, and this built on everything that the first game did and just did it much better. And again, that world is incredible. Excuse me.
He
did it again, as opposed to building.
You bite your tongue.
I was taking a shot. I'm sorry.
And Jeffem's wife? Come on, man. Get her name out of your mouth.
I'm sorry.
He's gone.
It did everything much better. Now that he's gone, like it improved on everything, and no one cared, no one played it. Which honestly, I don't blame anyone, because my biggest question is, why does Sony not like Horizon?
It seems like they do. Because what are you talking about? They're all in on trying to push this thing. There's the big VR flagship. They're making like 6 more games.
Holst is like
too bad they always release it like a week before some like massive industry shakeup of like, okay, we're gonna release the first one right before Breath of the Wild, and then we're gonna release the second one right before Elden Ring.
It's not their fault.
Pick a fucking window, man. Just delay it for 3 months when there's like a complete dead zone that no one has anything to play.
That does not exist.
I think it still would have been screwed. I don't know what it is about it that it just, it is the time doesn't help, but I think it's also just something about it. It's an 8 people hate, while like Ghost is an 8 people love. And I'm like, bro, these are like the same caliber. I prefer Horizon, frankly, but like they're not nearly as different as people act. It's just something about it.
And
I don't know if
meanwhile,
it's just like new IP that people don't like. I don't know what it is, but like people don't like it.
And Scars Above is a 6 that we love. So, it's just like there's no predicting. No, I think we all agree we love Scars Above, and yet we'd give it a 6.
I'm curious to know, Jeff, you said you played like with your wife, like what was that setup like? Was it like pass the controller? Was it like you take a shift, I jump into the world? Like how'd you guys do that?
Yeah, it was mostly like she enjoys, well, I don't even know if she enjoys. She just gets obsessed with the game and she plays a ton of it. She would give it to me when there was something that she was tired of trying to do herself, or there were some challenges and some things that she just didn't want to do, or there were times
was
where
it the melee combat, because those pits were rough.
Or the rest
and she actually super likes Kyle. You shouldn't even be talking about
this. This is what he wants.
The combat of Horizon is the best. It's the best open world combat other than Elden Ring of any game. That's why I like it so much better than Breath of the Wild, because Breath of the Wild is no.
You went one too far. Pick your spot.
Cut his mic.
And my wife absolutely loved Breath of the Wild. It was her favorite game until she played the Horizon games, and like she still loves Breath of the Wild, but even she was like, the world is so much more interesting.
Right.
The way that the lore is tied into it is so much more interesting. It looks so much better, and the combat is so much more varied, and the upgrades are so much better. It's like, and just nobody cares. And I don't get it. The combat is
so phenomenal in that game. Like, obviously it's inherently, fairly straightforward in that, like, it's elements and like the ice and the fire, it's not too hard to grasp, but there's so much fun and depth to be had. And I think the slowdown just totally nails the fun of precision aiming and setting up traps. Like, it's just such a cool, like, almost like a low-key Monster Hunter structure to it. Like, I love just scanning. It's got scanning, Kyle, so I don't know why you're out here taking shots, because you can scan a lot of things. All right, in Horizon Forbidden West. But yeah, I freaking adore that combat.
And yeah, even above like the elemental stuff, like figuring out like the way that the enemies are built, the fact that they're all machines, they have these different components. You have to figure out which armor to take off to get to weak points. Like, all of that is so interesting. And the difference of like all the different weapons and how they play. You have like the disc shooting one in this one where you throw it out and it boomerangs back, but you have to actually catch it. And then if you do catch it and you throw it, it does even more damage. Like, they've added a ton of different upgrade paths, and all of your weapons can be upgraded, and you can put in different mods that add all these different things. Like, there's a ton of complexity there, and the story's really good. Like, and I think one of the things that we're talking about of like why this game just falls flat for people is, I think the character design is so overblown that it is just kind of absurd. Like, if you look at pictures of some of the characters, it's like, how am I supposed to take you seriously with that thing on your head? Like the character design looks ridiculous, but the characters themselves are really interesting. And this game has like there's like a great team up element to it, where you're building this big team to take on the bad guys.
It's Mass Effect-y in a way. Yeah.
Yeah. Like the it does so much good stuff with sci-fi. Like, it is a really meaty sci-fi game. A lot of heady sci-fi concepts. Like, they doubled down on it. Like, they answered all of the questions in the first game, which was one of the things that was so impressive about it. Like, you're building out this huge lore, but then they managed to just double that and like introduce all this new like backstory lore of like what was really going on, and they answer all of that really satisfying. Like, it's just top notch.
Here's my one simple rebuttal. Your wife got you into this. You would have let that sit for the rest of the time and never go back to it. You fell off of it, and there's a reason you fell off of it.
The reason I fell off of it is because f***ing Elden Ring came out. Hanson, I played 100 hours of Elden Ring.
Yeah, but you finished it. You could have gone back at any point, and you didn't.
I have not finished Elden Ring, and I still have to go back to Elden Ring.
I think we all have amazing games that we have tabled and just not finished for the sake of the moment passing. So I don't actually think that's a valid criticism. I think it is valid because unless you're like a perfect gamer who's always out here finishing.
Then I guess Red Dead Redemption 2 also sucks because I haven't gone back to it, Hanson. There are amazing games.
I like Red Dead 2 because that thing is slow as hell and it's so boring closing the drawers. But
I'm just saying, let's focus on what we agree with.
There's great games in the past.
I bounced off of Elden Ring, Ben, so I don't know why it's our top game when I bounced off of it.
We can undo it.
I bounced off of Breath of the Wild too. Like this.
Right. There's no
your
doubt.
Argument has no weight.
I'm saying you're doing it all wrong. I'm just saying there's a notch where a quality of a game, if it's speaking to you personally, would be like, no matter what, I need to go back and finish this. And I feel like a lot of these games aren't crossing that.
Not that game, so
that's fine.
It's wild.
That's fine.
No,
that's fine. But he's not going to the mat for Elden Ring right now. He's going over the mat for Forbidden West.
When I went back to Forbidden West, I realized that the game was speaking to me in a way that it is. To be fair, I think the beginning of that game does it a bit of a disservice. I think it is a slow start, although I did get to a point where there was some interesting stuff going on. But I do think it's a little slow at the beginning. I think there are game systems that it doesn't properly like clue you into. Like it tries to, but there were entire things where it's like we unlocked what turned out to be a super cool weapon skill, and we sat there for like 5 minutes, like trying to figure out why isn't it working? And it turns out we hadn't even equipped it. Like there's some clunkiness to the systems in that game that aren't properly explained. And you just can't do that nowadays. Like there are so many good games that you can't have a slow opening 10 hours, or you can't have systems like when I played I played like 15 hours or whatever. And then my wife and I, like, we eventually unlocked this ability that lets you shoot these explosive arrows, and they do a ton of damage. And it's like, this is the rest of the game for me. Like, this kicks ass. And just the fact that I could play 15 hours of that and never be exposed to it the first time around. And then when we were exposed to it, like, we had so much time just equipping it and figuring out how to use it. Like, you cannot do that. You're going to lose people. And I feel like that is ultimately the story of this series is continually losing people along the way, or just having like bad launch windows and all these other things that don't get people into it. And it's really unfortunate, but we're looking forward to the DLC. So.
It's going to be sweet. It is interesting to think of like just kind of it's tough to make a pattern out of just two examples, but now it is a little bit like a third example of the Call of the Mountain is kind of like their third release in the Horizon universe. And it's like, well, yeah, but I'm not going to pay $600 for it for playing the VR version of it. So even that's going to be dinged. And it's like, is Horizon not that big of a franchise? Or is it just that PSVR in general is going to be a big bite for too many consumers, so it might get dinged a third time.
No, the VR thing isn't going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
I saw that they're adding it to PS Plus.
Yeah.
Which,
yeah, we got a question about that in community questions and stuff. We can unpack it there. But yeah, so a lot more people
this got a lot more hostile than I was expecting. I will say this is the only franchise that has pushback on even talking about it. Like, I don't know. Maybe if you want to see the problem, some people just need to look in the mirror. I don't know. This is a thought.
Look, I think it's a solid game. I
you
also
wouldn't know it based on how you reacted.
I know.
Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, you're right. I'm also lightly curious to go back, but I was just I ran out of steam. And
I finished it, to be clear.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
I didn't drop off.
Right.
I did finish it. I saw all that lore you're talking about in the last hour of the game.
Oh, Kyle!
Were you not picking up all the stuff the entire way through of like all the notes and all the audio stuff that was actually building a lore out that was much more interesting? Like, I'm not a person who stops and reads, codex paragraphs or listens to those audios in most open world games anymore. But like, it has an interesting lore. I'm sorry that the lore does not work for you, Kyle.
I'm glad you like it.
Do you accept his apology, Kyle?
I do.
Great.
Thank you.
Hey,
it was a fake apology.
It was.
This is a very,
I have
nice
nothing to
moment.
apologize for.
Hey, Janet, do you know how this whole thing operates?
Yeah, I think spicy, spirited debates about nothing.
God bless it. I love when Jeff, you told me you were going to fall asleep in this episode. You did the opposite. It's the first time you've truly woken up and seen the world as it is.
Well, the Pokemon thing was over. So.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, no, it's Patreon, everybody. We exist. This podcast exists because people just like you go to patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's and find the tier that's right for them. It is the start of a whole new month, which means it's a great time to jump in there and find a benefit. I mean, there are higher benefits if you want to be bold Susan, if that's a phrase. But you can still jump in and choose any game to become the game champion of. We'll declare you the game champion. It'll be the description of every MinnMax video that you're the champion, and we'll declare it on this podcast. And then also you can join the Wall of Heroes tier, which I feel like a hack for talking about the Wall of Heroes tier too much. But it's like, I genuinely think it's wild and like a great opportunity for people because I've seen the numbers, but you can jump in at the $100 tier and you can put any image you want on every MinnMax video and it rotates through every MinnMax video. So for $100, you can promote whatever you want and it's seen literally millions and millions of times. Like if I add up all the views across all these videos, so for $100, millions of impressions, that's a good deal if you're looking to get eyeballs on something like a cute pet or your small business or your podcast, your Twitch channel, whatever the hell you want, within reason. Also, thank you to some of our biggest supporters, people like I'm 8-Bit. They want everybody to know about The Pathless, Kyle, a game that you enjoyed quite a bit. And I'm 8-Bit, they want you to know that they have a Nintendo Switch exclusive edition that you can pre-order at this point. It is a physical edition of The Pathless for Nintendo Switch. Comes with a huge fold-out poster. I'd argue it's like 17 inches by 23 inches. It also has a reversible cover sheet, collectible art cards, exclusive artwork by Emmy winner Elaine Lee. So you can go to I Am 8-Bit's wonderful online store and pre-order The Pathless, the I Am 8-Bit exclusive edition with all those hot exclusives. And you should just go check out their store in general because I Am 8-Bit's one of the coolest gaming stores on the internet. And because they are great supporters of ours, you can use the promo code, and it's new now, everybody. Promo code Shamrock Shake, no space, Shamrock Shake for 10% off everything in their store that is under $100. Hell of a deal. Help support them because they are wonderful, and I Am 8-Bit supports us in a big way and our community by shipping out a prize each and every week to whoever has the best question submitted over on Patreon. Support us any tier on Patreon. You can submit a question. Then we choose our absolute favorite. We're all very confident about it. And then they win a prize. And this week, the best question wins the FTL soundtrack, double vinyl soundtrack, the 10th anniversary edition of the Faster Than Light FTL soundtrack. A great soundtrack. So thanks to I Am 8-Bit for shipping that out. So look live, everybody. Oh, great. Here we go. Let's cover some new territory. Tom Blackburn writes in and says, what could the strategy be for putting Horizon Forbidden West on the premium tier of PlayStation Plus? That game is basically a year old, has gone on sale for $30, and could disappear from the roster at any time. What is the point of doing this when they know they'll be compared to Game Pass? Do you value the IP to showcase it when there aren't any other Sony first-party games near release? Why'd they do that? Says Tom.
I mean, there's a lot of people that come into stuff late. That's one thing. I think often it's natural for us to reflect on like, oh, why would this is old. But, for my family who just got a PS5 this year, like they're like, oh, this is perfect because we didn't have Forbidden West and they're also playing like Zero Dawn right now. So there's one, those people. Two, I think it helps to have some form of cadence of first party games coming to those platforms, even if it's not going to be a day and date. And three, they got that DLC coming out, baby, and they want people playing it.
That's exactly what it is.
So obviously they're like, hey, would you like some DLC with your free game? Would you like to play Remake with HBO show? Like, it's all marketing, baby, and it's trying to get more eyes and more people playing it.
Yeah, it is weird though. I get the point of like, okay, we're kind of inching towards that Game Pass territory because like it is pretty damn close for a big game like this to be thrown in there. But I mean, I'm not going to complain if you have that service. That seems like a sweet thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was certainly an after the fact kind of decision of like, yeah, they certainly weren't going to do it at release date. And if it had sold, like super gangbusters, I don't think they'd be doing it now either. Yeah. I think it falls in that window of like, they said that Horizon Zero Dawn sold like 20 million copies or something. I'm sure this is so much under that now they just want people to play it and and hopefully pay for the DLC. And it does kind of, I think it gives those other services some extra buzz of like, well, if we didn't hit payday when we first released the game, then maybe it can be a value add to, the different tiers of PlayStation Plus and sell some DLC. But yeah.
Brandon Lovesy writes and says, "Hey friends, with the tease of Elden Ring DLC this week," that's right, a Shadow of the Erdtree, everybody. You'd think that Keighley would be scrambling for that. It's weird they just kind of tweeted it out, but whatever.
They also phrased it as we're beginning development.
Oh, really?
I think so.
The hell? That's really weird.
It's very strange.
Ask a question.
Oh, sure. But they say, with the tease of Elden Ring DLC this week and Horizon Burning Shores about a month away, how often does DLC bring you back to a game? What does it need to do to suck you in? Do you feel the need to replay the base game before starting the new content? All that good stuff.
I think they're going to ask, will the DLC for Elden Ring overshadow the DLC for Burning Shores?
God.
That would be so funny.
Oh, and they drop it the same time.
I mean, for me, it's like, if it's it has to be like top tier favorite. Right?
Yeah.
Same.
Like if it was like my favorite game of that year, I will dip into story DLC.
DLC.
I'm excited for Elden Ring, and I was thinking back to other DLC I've like been excited for. Is like all the Breath of the Wild DLC I was really excited for. Castlevania Lords of Shadow, which was like a huge favorite of mine the year it came out. I was really excited for that DLC, I remember. But if it's like if it was just a game that was like, I liked it, it's pretty rare for me to sort of get excited about the DLC.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I'm trying to figure out when I'm pretty rarely excited for DLC. Like even Nobody Saves the World, a game I love. Like they added so much to that game, and I was like, I think I'm okay. I had a great time with that experience. I don't know if I want to crack open those systems again. But then on the flip side, something like Return to Castlevania with Dead Cells. It's like, well, I did like Dead Cells years ago when that came out. And I've kind of been hankering for a reason to go back. And I've never really been a Castlevania guy, but maybe we'll talk about that DLC next week. And maybe the trailers make it look pretty cool. And so that's one that's like, oh, I'm actually excited to go back because of this DLC. So I guess if it's just the story stuff, though, I don't know. Yeah, it has to be like Mass Effect level for me to really care so much about the story that I'm hankering for it. Because even like Mario and Rabbids, a game that also I really loved from last year, like the DLC, it's like, hey, it's a tower and it's a challenging combat tower. It's like, I don't care at all. The Rayman stuff down the road, I do want to play as Rayman in that game, so maybe that'll get me. So I just feel all over the map for DLC.
Yeah, usually the only time I care about DLC is if I hadn't played it in the first place, and then it's like, well, I got to get the ultimate version that has all the DLC. And then being able to play through it, when you're actually playing it for the first time. My wife did like the Frozen North or whatever when she played through Horizon.
Frozen Wilds, I think?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. The names are not good.
Yeah. But,
more
but otherwise, yeah, that's not the kind of thing I would normally... I mean, I've reviewed Frozen Wilds at GI, so that was one case where I went back and played it. But otherwise, I rarely would go back to a game for that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty much the same as Kyle. It's like, it's got to be, I got to be really into it. And I'll add in where I differentiate from Kyle is I might still not even play it, even if it is a favorite game. It's just so like tough going back into stuff. Even now, like I'm working on the Miles Morales Platinum, and I started playing yesterday, and I was like, whoa, don't know how to do anything. I mean, I could swing because it's so intuitive. Shout out to the design there, but like I couldn't do a lot of basic stuff. So it's tough getting back in. I don't replay the game because the games are usually kind of lengthy that get DLC, stuff like that. But Burning Shores I will hit up because I do love Horizon, so I'll be there for Burning Shores. But other than that, the only other DLC I'll dip into is if it maybe adds to a game that I wouldn't mind going back into. Like I plan to still do Escape Academy that had DLC, and I enjoy those puzzles, like, playing with Isaiah, and like Mario Kart, because it's like, oh, a new track. So like, I love the game. I'll dip into this game regularly. Like DLC will totally bring me back for a game like that. But yeah, it's pretty rare.
Yeah. GMax Theorin submits a question over on Patreon. They say, Game Pass has reached the point that as a fan of video games, I felt dumb for not really being able to utilize it. So I bought an Xbox Series S. As a first time ever Xbox owner, what games do I absolutely need to go back and play?
I meant to actually look at the list.
This is a great question.
Oh, me too. I'm like panic Googling it to get everything.
Playdead games on there? Is Inside on there? That was like an Xbox exclusive, like initially.
They probably played it other places then, right?
Probably.
And so, I mean, my instinct is like, well, Halo. But like, we just did the deepest dive not too long ago for Halo 1. So you could do that, but I think a lot of the thrills of Halo 1 you could still get by just jumping into Halo Infinite and like exploring that open-ish world, whatever the hell you want to call Halo Infinite structure. Like, I think you'll kind of get the idea of Halo if you do that and jump into multiplayer. So I'd say Halo Infinite would be a need to play.
Yeah.
Hi-Fi Rush.
Hi-Fi Rush is absolutely, if you didn't play that on PC, absolutely.
Hey, Yakuza Like a Dragon's on there now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, this is so dependent on like what your tastes are for games. I mean, I think there quite literally is something for everyone that you probably haven't tried yet on Game Pass because it's so expansive. Like, the Persona games are on there.
But here's the thing.
They have
this is
Hot Wheels Unleashed on there.
But this is the first time Xbox owner is what G-Max is saying, like.
Okay, so again, and I know people because you're like PlayStation fan, whatever. Like, I talk smack about everybody, so I don't know where that comes from, but that just is what it is. I don't necessarily think, other than Halo, like you mentioned, as someone that was that person before, I didn't necessarily feel like there were a lot of experiences that I hadn't had that were very specific to like exclusive stuff on Xbox personally.
What about your Sunset Overdrive?
Huh?
Sunset Overdrive.
I don't think that's on Game Pass, actually, is it?
Is it? Is it not?
I don't think so.
Oh,
I don't think it actually is, but I don't know.
Back to publishing rights for that.
Oh God, weird.
I'm pretty, actually, you know what? It is on Game Pass. At least it was because I did the stream for Sunset Overdrive, and I think that was also on Game Pass.
Okay.
Because I think that was the whole point. But I don't fully remember. But something like that. But I think there's not, in my opinion, I wouldn't necessarily look at this through the lens of it should be Xbox exclusive just because they're new to the platform. Because also, I'm guessing you're new because nothing drew you in before. Not in a mean way, but that just might be your situation where you just didn't get around to it.
Yeah.
Ori.
Crowboy.
By the way, Sunset Overdrive is on Game Pass.
Nice.
So.
Yeah, Crowboy watching us live at the Backstage Pass here. They say Forza Horizon 5. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a great one.
So damn good. Dan Villone writes in and says, am I crazy? My lovely wife bought me a PSVR 2 as an early birthday present, and I had never played a VR game until now. Thanks to Kyle's Pistol Whip recommendation from 2019, this was the first game I played. How is it possible that I've gone years and years without understanding how amazing VR is? You know what? I like hearing this because we're all cynical jerks about PSVR 2, but it's like, yeah, if you've never played VR, you put it on your damn head for the first time, it's trippy. It's a weird, wild thing you should experience.
I mean, maybe the conversation around it, we should have tempered it in this way where it's like PlayStation VR 2, like, is a good VR headset. Like,
right.
If you're new to it, it is great for that. And the library is pretty full of good stuff that has already released. So like for me, yeah, I look at them like, well, yeah, Pistol Whip's on here. Great. I've already played that. But if you've never played VR and you jump in and now you have Pistol Whip and Tetris Effect and Rez and Beat Saber at some point soon, like, yeah, that would be really exciting. Grab Thumper too. Thumper's another really good VR rhythm.
Oh, I'm scared of that one of VR.
I don't like Thumper. It's too intense for me, but it definitely has a hardcore audience. Yeah, I mean, I think there's, different appeal points for different people. I think for me, for what it is and how much it is and many other factors, it doesn't quite even out for me. Like I have a lot of fun in an arcade, but I wouldn't buy all those arcade machines is kind of where I land with VR.
Right.
2 and VR in general. See, I can drag PlayStation as well. People know I wasn't fond enough on the headset over there either. But yeah, I mean, I think there definitely are great experiences to be had. And what's nice about you already being in it and also like getting it as a gift, it's like great. You don't have to worry about any of that. Should I, shouldn't I? You're here now. And now it's time to just enjoy. And that's really where I am with PSVR 2 as well. Like it's not at a point where I really recommend it that highly in the space of VR. But now that I'm here, like, obviously, of course, we want to do well. Like, we already have the stuff and we want good games, play What the Bat. Because I pop really hard for that game.
It is good.
And it's getting an update where it no longer will require room scaling, aka it won't require nearly as much space as it used to. So that is like my number one for VR. But definitely there's the people that are into it, kind of like other niche or failed items like Vita and stuff. People that get into it are really into it though, and there is really cool dedicated coverage. So that is the fun part of being in the VR community, of checking out those, Upload VR and other outlets or creators that center their whole content around optimizing and getting the most out of what is still very much emerging hardware in a lot of perspectives.
Yeah. Will James writes in, it's a dorky question, but that's you came to the right place, Will. They say, hey, cohorts, how would you market VR games? As a non-VR gamer myself, it seems like the limitation of all games being inherently in first person makes it hard to pull content for a trailer. All gameplay is first person and there are minimal cutscenes to draw from. When in a showcase like the State of Play with 5 back-to-back, they just seem to bleed together. How would you improve this?
So at least for me, the best marketing for VR that always gets me, it's like the reason Pistol Whip caught my attention. It's the reason Beat Saber caught my attention.
Yeah.
Is they show gameplay, if you can imagine, if I can like visualize it, is like watching a person play in VR and the camera is pulled out behind them.
Right.
So you actually see them in the VR space.
Yes.
And seeing, I think it was a Facebook ad that got pushed to me. That's how the first time I saw Beat Saber was someone sort of like visualized existing in the space, not in first person.
You see what their body is doing. Yep.
And I was like, that looks amazing.
Totally.
I want to check that out. And I, went and downloaded it right away. So like, it takes, the developers like creating a new camera to showcase it from a different perspective. But like, that's the best way to show off VR is showing someone inside the space.
Yeah, totally. Dan from Canada has a question for Jeff. Hang on, Jen. Are you
what
melting?
Just happened? What?
The food truck came back.
Kyle's clown car pulled up.
It's the fruit truck that drives through my neighborhood, and they play the cucaracha, which I feel like, I don't know. It's like the cucaracha's fine, but I'm like, really? Like this has to play in the background as like the only Latin person on this channel.
It's the 5th guest for MinnMax at this point.
I would say La Cucaracha. That's top 100 songs of all time material.
It's either that or like a dog that I swear to God is 2 houses down, and who knows? I don't know what that dog is saying, but they need attention right away because they're loud.
Yeah, that's like top 300 songs. Dan from Canada has a question for Jeff. I don't think I've ever used the phrase "have your cake and eat it too" properly. Give me your best example so I can use this phrase properly and seem smart. You're a writer.
An example of have your cake and eat it too.
Right.
Wow. Thanks for putting this out.
I got a factoid about that phrase if you want me to vamp for a second.
Yeah.
That phrase is how they caught the bomber Kaczynski.
What? Really?
Because he published a letter where he's instead of saying you can have your cake and eat it too, he changed the exact wording. You can't have your cake and eat it too, is how Kaczynski wrote it in this like letter that he published.
Right.
And because of that strange phrasing, his sister-in-law recognized that it was probably him and turned him in.
And she recognized the terrible sketch of him in the hoodie and the big sunglasses and stuff?
No, but apparently Kaczynski always thought that phrase was misused and would complain about it all the time to like friends and family. And so when he used it in this like published manifesto, that's how people tracked him down.
Well, that's what it is.
He kind of has a point, though. It kind of makes sense to say you can't have your cake and eat it, too.
First, you defend Forbidden West. Now you're siding with the Unabomber. Jeff, I can't keep up.
I want my cake and I want to eat it, too. What do you want?
The thumbnail really creates itself for this
episode. Just the Unabomber?
Might not
I got a hoodie over there. I'll put it on.
Yep.
Oh, God. So wait, what was the question? Like an example of having
It's not important.
Cake?
Dan, the point is you have to become the Unabomber if you want to use that phrase properly. Villas...
Playing a save... Okay.
They get it. Villas writes in, and they say, I came onto a stream on Twitch for the last 2 hours or so of A Space for the Unbound, and I was absolutely blown away. Is it worth playing through if I now know how it ends? Is the whole game fun, or am I playing to reach the super beautiful, intense ending? Okay, so this is no spoilers.
Okay.
No spoilers. We talked about A Space for the Unbound when Jill Grote was on a couple weeks ago. Just this last weekend, I finished it. And I am livid. I know outlets are busy. Kyle, I know your Game Informer's busy. I am livid more sites haven't reviewed A Space for the Unbound because that game is awesome. And it just gets bigger and wilder as you go throughout until like the finale is surreal, trippy. There's like some really interesting, I don't want to spoil anything. There's like some angles to the story that they're expressing at the end. And I'm like, I've never seen a story told this way. It is so wild and genuinely.
Am I gonna cry playing this?
You might. I
clipped out an innocuous clip from early in the game posted on TikTok, and people were in the comments like, oh, this game made me weep. And I'm like, what? And I can kind of see, like, you know, it's like a very nostalgic, like, childhood coming of, you know, at least that's the setup in the beginning. I don't know where it's gonna go. But I'm like, some stuff must really go down from the beginning to the end for it to have such, like, I think, an impact on so many people.
Yeah, I've been crying easier and easier in my life recently, and this one, tears weren't rolling. Whereas if I look at a thumbnail for the Double Fine documentary, I'll cry. But like this one, it's like I really loved it, but it was emotional, but not tears streaming. But genuinely, also the part that doesn't get enough love, and it's like one of the big things that really carried me through in the beginning stages, at least, was like the pixel art is. I mean, it's some of like the greatest pixel art I've ever seen in my life, and the fact that they just get like bigger and bigger and weirder with it later on, like it is just incredible looking. Yeah. So A Space for the Unbound is this game that needs more love.
Is it basically a visual novel?
No, it's an adventure game.
More of an adventure game.
It's more
almost like a.
Yeah, it's like an adventure game, but with more of a creative, action focused lane, if that makes sense.
At least early on, it's very like quest structured.
Right. It is. Like, it is largely
something like get. If only I had a bandana, and then you walk a little further and it's like, you got bandana, and I'm like, this must be the bandana for the guy back there.
It's a lot of that.
But I am enjoying it. That's not to disparage what it has going on. I think I'm only 2 hours in or something, and besides it looking beautiful, it has, I think, a really nice examination of aspects of childhood and kind of, I don't know, it's very sweet, I think, in its setup.
Yes.
So I'm excited to continue playing. And there are a lot of cats in that game.
There's a lot of cats.
And you get to like pet them. And then when you pet the cat, it like names the cat. And there's a trophy for like petting all the cats. Seems like it has a fun trophy list too. So I'm excited to continue with it. And it does seem like it goes into 12th gear at a certain point.
Yeah,
so.
I think it's going to be one of those that we'll be talking about the 210s in a big way. And as long as people aren't completely caught off guard, like, what? A Space for the Unbound? Because it's awesome. And like, I'm really not great at following stories, and I lose threads easily, and I'm confused. And so for a lot of that game, I'm like, I'm confused about what is happening in the structure of the story. It comes together really well. It's like, oh, that's a really cool idea. Anyways, Catherine,
with Minish cap out of the way, I'm gonna get it downloaded.
Yeah, you should.
Nice.
A good Switch game, maybe.
Yep. It's on Switch. I think it's on everything. People corrected us.
There's a demo on Switch, I see as well.
Oh, right on.
That's worth.
Catherine Gilbert writes in and says, "Hey, everybody."
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, Kath.
Hi.
Thank you. We did it. They say, I was wondering, what is the min, parentheses, least favorite thing, and the max, parentheses, favorite thing of these games? Oh, Kath, what have you done?
So it's not favorite and second favorite, like how we do for the
it's your
awards.
least favorite thing and your most favorite thing. And the first game she throws on the list is Horizon Zero Dawn.
Okay, hold on.
Okay, here's least favorite thing of Horizon Zero Dawn is, I think just like the collectible nature. I don't like those open world games where you're just grabbing everything and throw it in a big stockpile, and your inventory is overflowing with crap that you don't really care about. And my max favorite thing is how well that first game wrapped up. I feel like, it's like, oh, that story, it kept me compelled throughout it.
It's been a while, but min is inventory management, which they fixed in the second game. And the max is tall necks.
Ooh, yeah, that's good. That's good.
I will also say min is inventory management, because that was a pain in the butt. Max was everything else.
That's why I got an 8.75 from Jeff.
Yeah.
Kyle, do you have thoughts?
Do you want an answer too? I can't really.
All right, that's fine.
This is hard because there are things that, like, I think it looks great. I could say max visuals. I do like the story, even though I know it's being.
This is Zero Dawn.
A stinker.
Yeah, a little stinker in the last. I do like the segment. The story. I like Aloy a lot. But the funny thing is, like, you guys really love the combat, but like, I actually find the combat. I don't really get into it, but I don't know if that's enough for a minimum.
Sure,
you know what I mean.
Can say min.
I think maybe just the fashion. The fashion of Horizon is the minimum.
Yeah,
for me. I do not like the way people dress.
The character design is absurd.
Yeah.
Kyle, are you more of a melee person than a bow and arrow person.
I just
or a traps man.
And maybe I'm doing it wrong, but I always feel like I run through my traps ammo really quick, and I'm just like fire, 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 fire. Okay, it's done. Like, and I just like that's how I end up with every fight. And maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe I'm not engaging enough with the other systems. But like, it's that thing that's tough where it's like, well, it's functional. I'm getting through these fights, but I'm just really leaning. And the same thing in Horizon Call of the Mountain in VR. It was like bam, 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 bam. I was like, all right, I would like the HP levels are too high or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to open that wound again.
Catherine also says, Animal Crossing New Horizon. This one feels easy. It's like the internet connection stuff, traveling to other people's islands, opening the gates. That crap sucked. But and then the best part, the music, the vibe, I'll say, of Animal Crossing. Yeah.
I think just the creativity. Well, let me be specific, because it's like, oh, the feelings I had there. No, F that. Like, let's go with an actual thing.
Yeah, Hanson.
Oh, my feelings.
Let's see, Max. I would say it's tough because everything has flaws in that game too. I love that game, but it's so flawed. I think the terraforming. I just think the way you can kind of customize the island to be whatever you want it to be for the most part within the confines.
That's Max.
That's my Max terraforming.
That's good. I like it. Pokemon Yellow.
Max, Pikachu's fat.
Yep, Max. Yeah, Pikachu following you around, like getting that close-up shot of Pikachu every time you talk to him, and like seeing that expression with the hearts or whatever. That's Max. And then Min is kind of like
that was enough to buy the game.
Yeah,
isn't that wild?
Right.
What a time!
I know,
and we did so happily.
But I guess the Min is just the fact that like it is the same game. Like Team Rocket's in it now, and it looks like Jesse and James. Woohoo! You know, like
I think Min random encounters.
Okay, all right, good. I like it. The Sleepy Mailman writes in. They say, "Hey MinnMax, in honor of the recent Pokémon Presents, are animatronics cool or creepy?" Did anybody else?
Oh yeah.
Did you watch this freak show?
I forgot about that.
God, Kyle, did you see this thing?
I saw the clip that you put online.
Okay.
You reacting to it, and then I have been seeing people sharing it as like a meme.
Oh my God. Yeah. So
it's creepy.
Yeah. The Pokemon company, Mr. Man, not to be confused with Mr. Mime, but he was giving his presentation and there was just an animatronic Pikachu sitting next to him the whole time. Just like, it was just pure nightmare fuel.
He blinked at us to leave. Like when they did the toss, he like did a distinctive blink. And that's when I realized, oh my God, that thing's alive.
That's the problem is animatronics. They all think, well, we want to make it look like it's alive. Therefore they need to blink. But blinking is damn fast, and every animatronic blink is like you just can't blink fast enough with modern technology.
Definitely creepy. It was the whole premise of FNAF.
FNAF?
They made billions off of animatronics being creepy.
Oh, Friday Night Fest. Got it. Did I ever tell you that stupid story, Janet?
No.
Only we care about it. But Andy McNamara, former editor-in-chief of Game Informer, he was very funny, and every time he couldn't remember the name of something, he would just lob a name out there. And so we're talking about Five Nights at Freddy's, and he couldn't think of the name or something. He's like, yeah, it's Friday Night Fest. The funniest, stupidest version.
And then that's all anyone ever called that game in the offices.
Right. So I'm looking forward to that
list of all his game names. I don't know if I still have that.
I'm surprised someone hasn't made that game yet.
I'm sure it's on there. Yeah, they played it last month on Steam Secret Stash.
Andy's at EA now. You know, they could be working on that.
Hello, EA Original. Dylan Kelly writes in and says, "Dear Ben and Company, do you think humans will achieve faster than light travel during your lifetime? P.S. The FTL soundtrack's a banger." Well, if this question's good enough, Dylan, you'll win it.
No,
not in our lifetime.
No,
I'll take self-driving car. Let's get that locked down.
It is weird that like it's like,
if partially self-driving.
Well, no, but it's just weird that Einstein...
Self-driving cars that don't kill people?
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
That is an important asterisk. Thank you, Jeff.
I've used the self-drive. But you can't fully self-drive. But
Sure.
I've used the
I want fully
self-drive.
self-drive, yeah.
I mean, it switches lanes and everything. You have to have your hand on the wheel, though, for safety purposes.
I don't want to be on a soapbox, y'all, but wake me up and tell me, first of all, and I'm just going to say this, how about no cars that kill people?
All right. Hot take.
We've never had this before.
Period. Full stop.
We're done.
It is, but it's just weird that
That's the other thing, too. Like, I've been safe in that Jeep. You see how often those things tumble over? It was my dream car, but I realized it tumbles over really often.
Yep, old Ford Escape problem.
Sure, it's made to tumble, but also why are you always tumbling?
Anyways, FTL. I think it's funny that like science over the last over 100 years has been like, yeah, there's nothing better faster than the speed of light. Moving on. And then like everyone's like, yeah, but we'll get around it though. Like everyone is so confident. Why?
We'll figure it out.
There's a rule.
Is that?
Also, gravity on spaceships, we'll figure out like
not going to be a problem.
Virtual gravity or whatever.
We got it. Yeah. Let's see. Mr. Buttons writes in and says, which is more fun?
Great name.
It is good. Which is a more fun experience? Completing a big, colorful puzzle or completing a large, complex Lego set?
Lego set.
But like, think of like, I love a good Lego set too, but like $300 versus like $3 at a Goodwill for a good puzzle.
It's not about the money. It's about the satisfaction. I actually think a puzzle might be more satisfying, but I don't want to do the work of a puzzle. Like I'm so bad at puzzles.
That's the thing. We did a huge puzzle as a family recently, and it took us a really long time. And like the payoff, because it was so much work, the payoff was kind of like almost underwhelming. I was like,
yeah, Kyle, I also just did my taxes.
Okay.
Anyway, so Joe writes it. No,
but the Lego, because the Lego stuff is like less work because it's very directed. Like I do find like the process of making it is less stressful, and the conclusion is more satisfying as a result. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, but I think Legos like can look cool on a shelf. I think if you like keep a finished puzzle and you try and like laminate it or something, I think you should be hospitalized. I think there's something wrong with you.
What do you guys do with your finished puzzle though? Because that begs the question. Like, you just throwing it away?
Tear it apart and give it away. Absolutely.
Take a picture.
See, there's like, and that's why like I can never get down with like the true puzzle community, because that's sick. Like just like tear it apart.
Janet,
we did actually frame one of ours. So
do you break it into pieces so that you can like just put large chunks back in the box?
That's weird.
That's what we used to do. Because it's like,
not bad.
Yeah.
Because then you can cheat. You can, when you're obviously going to take it out a month later, you can cheat and just put the big pieces back together.
But like, what do you like? Someone's coming over, like bust out the puzzle we made so they can see how.
Gotta pull that puzzle out.
Again, puzzle is just too hardcore. You lose one thing in a puzzle, it's over. Lego literally sends you extra pieces with like the smallest ones, so the likelihood of you losing one is pretty low. It's much easier to get more pieces. So I hate puzzles, but they're more satisfying, maybe.
That's true. I haven't done a Lego. I don't know that I've ever done a Lego set. Is it as annoying as like IKEA directions?
No, it's so good.
Whoa! You've never done a Lego set?
I played with Legos like a creative child in the 80s where you just build something from your imagination. I don't need a bespoke set.
What did you imagine at the time?
It was probably just blocky castle.
A lot of stacks of squares.
Big square castle.
Trying to make a Diet Coke.
It's just a red block on top of another red block.
No, all mixed because we didn't have enough to color code anything special.
That's right.
Pretty soon, Jeff, you'll buy some for your kid and they'll get tired of it after like the first 8 steps, and then you'll finish it. Is what happened to me a lot.
It's really good.
This is great.
Really?
Yeah.
Crowboy at the Backstage Pass, he says, please make Jeff and building a Lego set a new show plus option.
Oh, absolutely.
Way ahead of you, Crowboy. It is on the list. It is on the list. It's the best.
No, it's like super simple. I feel like too, like I hadn't played with Lego since I was a kid. Like I did, Bionicles and stuff, but then I had like this big gap. And going back into it was kind of intimidating because there's so many pieces. Like I did they have the Lego tall neck. Jeff, if you're going to dig more into Horizon, there's more content for you, baby. It's in Lego. The stuff is so simple. They have like the online versions too, where you can kind of zoom in more. Like they have all these like assistive stuff. They even have a tool for getting the Lego pieces apart. And I'm like, when I was a kid, you just had to ruin your hand.
That's not true. The tool existed. Like the gray piece, I had that in my childhood.
This one's orange. It's kind of like a fulcrum looking thing.
Yeah. I think mine was like, I think it was gray. Unless I'm thinking of the shark.
I don't know. Maybe you were part of like the childhood elite or something. We didn't have that.
Hang on.
You just had the deal.
That's right. I forgot I was part of the childhood elite. We had the council.
The bourgeoisie.
That's
dressed it all in purple.
A silver Lego pry bar. Yeah.
And a silver spoon in his mouth.
The problem with the Backstage Pass version of this podcast is we've made multiple reference to the purple thing, but you only will understand what we're talking about if you listen to the pre-show if you're at the Backstage Pass.
But doesn't that make you curious?
Aren't you just curious
if you have the financial means, like check it out. Like it's some good content,
means.
some deeper cuts.
That's right. Joe Dean writes in with a killer question saying, "What's better, Zelda's item get jingle or Final Fantasy's battle victory jingle?"
Zelda, because you hear it less often.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. But
I love the Final Fantasy jingle.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. I would say, is this controversial for Zelda, Kyle? Item get
Don't do it.
Classic. I would put above the item get jingle the entering a house jingle of just like the start, like the dun 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 dun. Like that little descent is so
you get that
satisfying.
a lot in Minish Cap because you're going in and houses a lot.
Yeah, and it makes me happy every time. Good. But dumb question, when did that start? Does Link to the Past have that same intro
That's a good question.
Every time you go in a building?
It was definitely an Ocarina.
Right. Yep.
But yeah, it might have been in Link to the Past.
I don't know.
Sure.
Let us know, Zelda fans. If anybody out there has like written a book on Zelda, just let us know in the comments what the answer is.
You're acting like I have like this encyclopedic knowledge of like every sound.
Sorry.
What is going on?
Yeah, why do we all hate each other?
I didn't have a section about whether that song occurred in every game. I'm sorry.
Yeah, bargain bin. Sebastian Apollinario. So Sebastian writes in and they say, respec or no respec in games. I enjoy the tension of committing to a long-term decision, makes it more personal and impactful. At the same time, my Divinity 2 playthrough could have been a torture without respec. Personally?
Respect.
Yeah.
I don't get no respect.
I don't get I don't know where you fall on this debate with that answer.
Also, when I read this question, I thought it was respect without the T. So I thought it was going to be like a quiz of can you pay respects in the game?
Oh my God. That's elaborate.
So someone ask that next week because it sounds, I'm interested in playing that.
I remember.
I think it should always be there. You should be able to respec all your stats and stuff.
Right.
I don't know that I have ever in my life taken advantage of it. I always just stick with what I've got, even if I'm still struggling.
Yeah.
I read ahead and I plan it out. But sometimes you can't plan it out. Like sometimes they like gray it out too much. But usually I pick what I'm doing ahead of time. But I like the option.
Yeah, I remember visiting. God, this might be completely wrong, but correct me if I'm wrong, everybody. I remember visiting Bungie before Destiny 1 for like the big Game Informer cover story in Destiny 1, diving into the systems.
How would we know if that's wrong?
Well, hear me out. But like Tyson Green, I remember he's like the investment lead or something at the time. He was making a big deal about like respeckings for babies. We want to be more Diablo 2 than Diablo 3. You'll never be able to respec in Destiny. And then I think you can respec in Destiny, right? I have to imagine that they went back on that. But I remember that was like their big pitch is like, no one cares about game design anymore. We do. No respec. And I'd imagine they've gone back on it. But
that's insane.
Yeah.
Like you should be able to respec, and I like the games where there's not even a penalty for it. The penalty for it is now you have 30 skill points and you have to refigure out an entire build in one sitting. But yeah, I do that from time to time. It's nice to be able to buy. No, forget it, Hanson. We're not moving on. We're going to talk about this forever.
Okay.
It's nice being able to buy an ability without when you're like, is this going to be good or not? And it doesn't matter. You can just do it. The best ones though, Mario versus Rabbids, where you can just unspec individual abilities.
Yes,
that's great.
Yep, for sure.
That's what every game should do.
Ian Z writes in. Wasn't he on 90210? What was his name? Ian Ziering? Wasn't that guy? So it's probably him. He says, hey, crew, how do you maintain faith in democracy when Pajama Sam, no need to hide when it's dark outside, comes third in the game championship poll? Justice for Pajama Sam. Yeah, so if you missed this, everybody who joins the game champion tier, we have the game championship every couple months where we pit all these games that people chose against each other to see which game we create bonus content about. And for the first couple game championships, it was like Wind Waker, Persona 5 Royal, and it was like everyone, like great games, no doubt. But I thought it was a little bit boring. Like everyone's just kind of choosing the most obvious ones. But lately people are annihilating it and just making really fun picks where like the last one that won was that Magic School Bus game that Sarah and I streamed through. And this time the final three were Guitar Hero 2, Pajama Sam, No Need to Hide When It's Dark Outside, and the Herbs Sims in the City. Like out of hundreds of amazing games, those three were the grand championship. And then it turns out that the Herbs Sims in the City won. So we're going to be creating bonus content about that.
You know, someone who has a Z in their name should be really excited about Herbs.
Oh, you'd think so. That's true. Z people have to stick together, Ian Ziering. So Mick Manga writes in and says, hello, popcorn-loving cohorts. With the Super Mario movie rapidly approaching, they bumped it up 2 days? The hell?
Yeah,
what's going on there?
sooner than we expected.
I thought I would do some research and look up the highest grossing video game movies of all time. Here are the top 10. Can the crew guess them all? All right, so try and guess top 10 highest grossing video game movies of all time.
And we're just trying to guess 10. It's not necessarily order, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Uncharted.
Uncharted is number 5 at $401 million.
Okay.
Sonic?
Sonic the Hedgehog's number 4 at $404 million.
Are both of them
Resident
on there?
Evil.
Oh, great question. Sorry, that was Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is number 4. Sonic the Hedgehog 1 is $320 million. Jeff, what was your guess?
Resident Evil.
Correct. Resident Evil Afterlife is number 10 at $300 million. Resident Evil The Final Chapter is at $312 million. Is Afterlife the one in the desert, Kyle? Which one is Afterlife?
Yeah, I think maybe I watched the first one.
Oh, really?
I've never watched
the first one's fun.
Yeah. Detective Pikachu.
Detective Pikachu number 2. By the way, alarming that they haven't announced a new one of those, right? What the hell's going on there?
I don't know.
Yeah, it made
There's nothing left to solve.
That's right. It made $433 million. That is. There are 4
World of
remaining.
Warcraft. Are we talking domestic or
must be unclear, but Warcraft is number 1 at $439 million. I think that must be
international.
Yeah, you're right. It has to be. Yeah.
So what are we at now?
You have 3 remaining.
Okay.
Here's a hint. One of them is an animated film.
Angry Birds.
Kyle Hilliard, number 6, Angry Birds, $352 million. Number 3, I never would have thought this did so well. It was probably carried. No, it was probably carried by its star, which people seem to like. Some would say they're the most bankable person in Hollywood, even though.
Rampage.
Rampage. There we go at $428 million. Now just number 7 remains. This is a producer, iconic producer, I believe.
Is it Monster Hunter?
Nope. No? Iconic producer, I think director as well. And they had a big hit at Disney. And they said, now we'll tackle this next. And we'll adapt this video game. And the world said, But apparently it made $336 million. The casting of the main character was certainly a choice that with each passing year is a worse and worse choice. Racially,
I'm scared.
It's
you
not Tomb
should
Raider.
be. Nope.
It's not either of those.
It's
any of those 3. Probably.
Bruckheimer joint. This is off the heat of Pirates of the Caribbean. They said, we can do no wrong. Now we will do this. And
I was about to say Lone Ranger, but that's not a video game.
No, but you're right. It feels like it's in that same vein. And they said, hey, person who won't give Taylor Swift their scarf back, you're the star of our film.
Kanye West starred in this film?
Oh, Assassin's Creed.
No, but you're so close.
Assassin's Creed 2.
It was Assassin's Creed 2 starring Kanye West was number 7. Thank you so much, McMonga,
that
for
one
reading
guy.
it.
What's his name again? The dude
Jake
from All Too Well.
There we go.
Yeah, okay.
Wait, yes, the dude from All Too Well, not the music video, but the actual dude.
Prince of Persia.
Prince of Persia. Yeah. There we go.
Right.
There we go.
Allegedly Jake Gyllenhaal, anyway.
Allegedly.
She never said that she was making music about him.
Seemed pretty clear. McMonga,
everyone
thank you
booed
for
his
reading
preview.
it.
That's all I know.
That's right.
God, Prince of Persia, right.
Yeah, I never saw it.
Written by Mechner, I think.
Oh, weird. Or yeah, he worked on it in some way, right?
I think he wrote the script because he always wanted to be a screenplayer. What do you call that?
Screenplayer. Yeah.
Film. I mean, that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to write movies, and then he fell backward into that video game thing.
Okay, what do y'all like for a question of the week?
Like the MinnMax one.
MinnMax one, I think was good. I think that was an interesting angle. We have Lego or Puzzles, Respec, Mario, or like top 10 movies, having your cake and eating it too, DLC.
I like DLC as well, actually, because that is an interesting.
Okay.
There's always DLC, but like,
all right,
how
Jeff,
much are we playing it?
You got to break this tie, man.
Someone should do a show that's just DLC of games. It's no other content.
It's possible. We could do it. That's a new Show Plus option. We've tried it a couple times and nobody votes for it.
That's because it's just DLC.
I like the MinnMax one.
All right. Who would have thunk it? Congratulations to Catherine Gilbert. We'll ship you out that FTL soundtrack. Congratulations, Kath. Now it's time for something that we personally call Get a Load of This. All right, everybody. We got little factoids. There's links below for all these funky things. Hey, get a load of this, everybody. It was late last week, but I just can't get over how horrifying it was. This goes down as a Hall of Fame worst game announcement I've ever heard in my life. Here we go. This is on an earnings call for Warner Brothers. Here it is. Let's see.
And there's lots more to come.
That's what my
including the
estimate
highly
was.
anticipated Mortal Kombat 12 and Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League.
It's just some financial dweeb at Warner Brothers just being like, by the way, Mortal Kombat 12 will be coming in 2023. We expect great results. It's like, wait, did NetherRealm know this?
Someone must have not approved that, right? It's pre-written. It's not someone off the cuff. But
right.
Like, there was someone who didn't, the right people didn't flag that as being like, oh, nope, we don't want to mention that one.
Right. It's bizarre.
Right?
And like Ed Boon is a cheeky tease online, and they've teased Mortal Kombat 12 a lot, but like to the point that I wasn't even confident that's what they were working on. Like it seemed from leaks that it was hinting that direction, but just to have it out there like, it's Mortal Kombat 12, it's coming this year. Like that sucks so bad to learn about it that way. So sorry everybody if you didn't know that.
You went hard on that poor earnings call guy.
I hate him. No, he's doing his job. He's fine. Jeff, you sent me one. What is this? Yeah. Okay. We should share this.
Do it.
Do you want to say anything before this?
I don't.
Okay. Here we go from Jeffem.
Hey, get a load of this. I was too lazy to record my own get a load of this for this week's podcast, so I generated one instead, using an AI synthesized voice trained on my own voice data. So now I can create an audio clip of me saying anything I want. Granted, I could also just record an actual clip of me saying anything, but then I'd have to use my mouth. And who wants to do that? This is way more efficient. Also, is it just me, or does AI Jeffem sound way smarter and more confident than regular old human Jeffem? Like he should be hosting an NPR show on how AI technology will eventually lead to the destruction of our society, only he's too cool to care or actually be affected by it. Subscribe to our new dystopia on your favorite podcast app.
Wow. There you go.
There we go.
Scary.
Hey, get a load of this.
Okay, all right, AI. All right,
Don't do it again. Don't do it again.
He's becoming self-aware.
It's asking me to
Sounds
leave
like
my
our
wife.
friend, who we haven't heard from in a while, but Wade Wojcik. It kind of sounds like Wade Wojcik.
You know what's weird? Okay, I'm interested in this tech because somebody also submitted like, hey, I generated your voice, Ben Hansen, and it's saying a bunch of stuff about Final Fantasy VII, and I listened to it. I'm like, oh, it kind of sounds like me at first. Then the more I listen to it, I'm like, I think this is just that guy recording himself. Like, I don't think this is me. So, but how does it work, Jeffem? Because it kind of sounds a little bit like you, but then as it goes on, it becomes less and less.
It's weird, and it was weird because I heard it and I was like, oh, that does sound like me, and then I was like, although I don't really listen to my voice enough to actually know, because I played for my brother and he was like, yeah, it doesn't sound that much like you,
right?
But like this was some AI startup website where you give them two minutes of audio, and 30 seconds later they just create this like AI voice based on yours, and it's less that it sounds like me, but it sounds more natural than most text to speech.
That does, and it sounds 50%.
That's what's
like
really
you.
creepy,
and I hate it for that reason.
right.
Yep.
You got something, Janet?
Yeah, get a load of this. I'm going to do a little like co-plug situation. I just want to highlight Blessing's recent episode of The Blessing Show. It's We Need to Fix Black Hair in Video Games, and it's doing really well. It's his most viewed in his series, and it's a super good, informative, surprisingly funny watch. Like, I think he totally nails like the few bits he has in there, and I just really enjoyed it, and I just want to highlight it. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. A lot of outlets are picking it up, but as you talked about, that doesn't necessarily like move heaven and earth, and in general I think it's a topic he's passionate about, and he's just excited to get more people to have eyes on it. And I've seen devs be like, oh, this is like, I'm sharing this within our circles, like I haven't thought about it in this way. So it's just cool to see a colleague and friend of mine make something that really feels like it's having a positive impact. So I'd appreciate if you all watched and shared it.
It's good. There's a link below for all this stuff. It's in the description, and it's interesting just like going through so many character creators for like the B-roll in that video, like putting them all side by side, and you get to see like, oh, some of these are very, very bad. And that's a little bit the point of the video. So yeah, definitely check it out. Kyle, you got one?
Hey, get a load of this. This is a weird one. I'm currently subscribed to Peacock because I've been enjoying Poker Face, the television show. But there's another, if you're like me and you're watching Peacock for that reason, there's another TV show on there called Girls 5 Eva that is like a Tina Fey joint. It's like It's like a one of it's like there's there was 30 Rock, and then there was Good News, and then there was Kimmy Schmidt, and then there was Mr. Mayor, and this is like Girls 5 Eva. This is like another 30 Rock-ish inspired show that I was just like losing my mind laughing at season 2. It's about a girl group in that boy band era of like the early 2000s, like coming back together when they're all like adults, and it's got that sort of 30 Rock really zany goofiness to it that I really appreciate. And Hanson, basically the star of the show, is she was in Hamilton. She played the main sister. I'm blanking on her name, but she basically plays the main, like the main character, and she's freaking hilarious. It's such a good show. Girls 5 Eva. I don't see a lot of people talking about it, but a really funny show that I like.
I'd never even heard of it. Yeah. Jeff, did you pull one from the community?
I did get a little of this. This one ties right back into the last one. This is from That Flow State, and it's a tweet that someone put out that says, someone made this video by using Al Guinness's voice AI and ripping apart some Django Fett logic. And it basically, it starts with Obi-Wan talking to Luke Skywalker, and then it just breaks down, like, I don't know if it was episode 2 or episode 3, but it's like, it's from his perspective, talking about like all the ways that Jango Fett could have just killed princess they were talking about. Right. Yes. And how they were doing such a terrible job. Yes.
It's very good.
Keeping her safe. So watch that one.
All right, everybody. I think that's it for this episode of the MinnMax Show podcast. We're always curious for your feedback, what you thought of the episode, what you think of the show, all that fun stuff. And then also, we could use some new reviews on iTunes. Or I guess Apple Podcasts, I guess they call it now. Probably 10 years ago, they changed that name. Who knows? But here's a little deal that I'll make with you, listeners and viewers. If you go leave a review for the MinnMax Show on Apple Podcasts, and in your review, you include some way to get a hold of you, whether that's a Twitter handle, email address, if you're comfortable with that. Twitter handle might be the easiest, right? Leave some way to get a hold of you with your review. You're automatically in the running to win a game code. We will give away 5 game codes, and this is from like the Trivia Tower prize pool. So there's some very good games in there. So we're going to be randomizing it and giving away 5. So your odds of winning a game code are very high, is what I'm trying to say. And you get to choose which game you want. And we have over 100 games for you to choose from in there. It's a huge pile. So go in to Apple Podcasts, leave a review, and include somebody to get a hold of you. You're automatically in the running, and your odds will be very high. You'll win a free game code. So it's a small thank you for helping to spread the word and maybe get the MinnMax Show in front of more people. If you want to help support this type of content directly, you can go to patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. You can unlock our bonus podcast, Party Chat, each and every week. This week, we talked about The Menu. I finally saw that movie, and it turns out it frickin' rules. So we unpacked that. And then also just, it's always an interesting behind-the-scenes look at production at MinnMax, pros and cons, where we're at, where we're stressed, where we're not, all that fun stuff. So if you enjoy this podcast, you'd probably enjoy Party Chat, our weekly bonus podcast. Also, heads up, we have the new episode of Trivia Tower for March happening on Sunday, March 12th. This is going to be an afternoon episode if you're in the States, but we're doing it early on a Sunday so that people in Europe can compete. So if you're in Europe and you're always bummed out by us never having the right schedule for Trivia Tower, this is your opportunity to jump in and compete for an Astro A30 headset and a bunch of game codes. Astro A30 headset, which multiple people on this podcast are wearing right now. So you can win all that. So please jump in and compete in Trivia Tower, and you can compete in Trivia Tower by supporting us on Patreon, even at that $2 tier, all week long. Here at MinnMax, we've been having the celebration of Double Fine Psych Odyssey, which I understand is very dorky to be unpacking a documentary series in this big of a way, but I'm glad for
Ben,
everybody.
do you like that thing?
I more than like it, Kyle. I'm a bit obsessed, but it's very heartening to see so many people in the community be like, yeah, I watched that. I started watching it, and it has consumed my life. It is so good. Thank you for letting me know about it. So we've been trying to unpack it with a whole series of content. I understand that's a silly thing to do, but that's kind of the beauty of independent games media and being supported on Patreon, is we can do things that don't make sense. For example, we can have a whole 3-part game club discussion on Like a Dragon Ishin. We are tackling that currently for the deepest dive. Leo Vader's hosting it. Sarah Pazorski's on it. Jacob Geller is on it. And Michael Hyam, formerly of Fanbyte and GameSpot, he is on it as well. The first episode is now up, and they're going to be covering it over the next couple weeks in a huge 3-part discussion with the deepest dive. You can submit your comments and your thoughts for them to read by supporting us on Patreon, or you can elect the podcast version of the Deepest Dive on Patreon. I can't wait to jump in there and listen to it myself. It's cool that Leo's hosting this thing. Janet, you hosted the second episode of Jack and Daxter. You know what it's like.
Yeah, I can't wait to see. I mean, Leo, anything with Leo is awesome because Leo's so fun and knowledgeable, and like, say a bad thing about Leo. That says more about you than it is about Leo.
That's
You know
exactly
what I mean?
it.
Like,
That's exactly
I can't
it.
wait. I'm definitely going to dip in when I finally get around to Ishin myself.
Yeah, but the point is, there's a reason that you don't see other outlets out there doing huge, gigantic 3-part game club discussions on Like a Dragon Ishin.
It's too lucrative.
The problem is it's not a viable and sustainable way to run a big organization. The only thing that makes it viable and allows it to exist is the people that go to patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. So thank you for letting a small outlet like us being a little bit weird. You can double the size of this outlet overnight if really just a couple of you went to patreon.com/MinnMax and jumped in at that $2 tier and competed in Trivia Tower and got a bunch of fun prizes out of it as well. So yeah, that's it for this episode of the MinnMax Show. That was a fun one. Thank you, Janet. I thank thee. And Kyle and Jeffem. Are we all on good terms, or was there too much sniping?
No, I'm mad at Jeffem for liking Horizon.
Yeah. I'm mad at that truck.
And I'm just here to instigate, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I get it. All right, but thanks so much, everybody. We appreciate it. We'll see you next week. Be good, have fun, let's go.